To address the town board on any topic, we ask that you please keep your comments brief to 3 minutes or less. Today's topics will include the Montauk Wastewater District and Lake Montauk RFP awards, the water quality technical advisory recommendations for the trustee pump out vessel, New York Energy Stretch Code, proposed donation to the East Hampton Town Police Department, community development block grant recommendations, the county school bus stop arm camera program, outdoor dining legislation, local food pantries, and the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation, followed by liaison reports and resolutions. Jason, do we have any callers on the line? Great, thank you. Jason, we have found that sometimes callers call in just to listen into the meeting rather than to actually speak. We appreciate that.
Hello, caller.
Good morning. Yes, good morning. Can you hear me? Wonderful. Great. Great. Thank you very much. Teresa McCaskey calling from the South Old Town Aircraft Noise Committee. Thank you very much for taking my call. I hope everyone is doing well this morning. I'm calling to good morning to put an inquiry out. At the very last airport management committee back in October, it was discussed that the flights overhead have increased significantly to East Hampton Airport. And that was reported by Jim Brundage, and which I'm hoping that he's online, but if he isn't, maybe it's at some point he can be asked. He, at that particular meeting, also mentioned that routes were going to be, are being discussed at this time. And at that point, he said he could not elaborate any longer. So my inquiry to the board is, and I understand that you yourselves really do not handle the routes at all, but I would hope that you would be a part of understanding the process itself. So my inquiry is, will the South Old Town or Riverhead or Southampton be brought to the table to actually see what's being proposed prior to implementation? So hopefully someone can answer that question. And if not, I would hope that the board could forward that inquiry to Jim Brundage and see if that can be shared with us.
Councilman Bragman, as liaison, do you have any information about discussions about possible route changes? I know that
I don't.
Eastern Region Helicopter has an annual meeting. They call it the Fly Neighborly meeting to engage with residents throughout the North-South Fork region to discuss potential route changes. But I don't think we have any further information about any discussion of route changes.
No, I know there are discussions before the FAA, posts routes on their materials that pilots can access. And there was a meeting, in the past that involved the Eastern Regional Helicopter Association, and they developed some fly-friendly routes that were completely voluntary, but we don't get involved in choosing the routes. And I'm not aware of any further discussions on routing. But I am very much aware of the fact that folks in neighboring communities in the North Shore are getting hit pretty hard with airport noise. They've made it really clear at all the AMAC meetings, and I've said, and I think the board shares the view that when we analyze airport noise impacts, we pay attention to not only what affects East Hampton residents, but what affects our neighbors, and that's an important part of the discussion that we will have to have about the airport.
My recollection is that the Eastern Region Helicopter does engage with the various communities. They put out a notice. We can certainly publicize that once that process begins again. It is important, I think, for folks to be able to have the ability to engage in that process. That's the whole point of it. But we don't actually, as Councilman said, get involved with the routes. Our experience has been that routes simply transfer the problems of one area to another when they're changed. It's not really a solution per se. We appreciate you taking the time to call us today, though.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you all about it, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving and safe Thanksgiving to everyone. Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you so much. Very kind of you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other? Next caller, please, Jason.
Hello.
Good morning.
Zachary Cohen.
Hi, Zach. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine. It's a little hard because what's in front of me and what I'm talking to are different in time. But I can obviously, I've turned the TV off. That's all right. Here's what I'll do, Peter. Normally I'd go back and forth a lot, and what I'm talking about is very much at the end of this meeting, the purchase of the, 192 Cedar Street at the end. I think David Lease had put it up at the end of this meeting. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yes,
and
the resolution.
Right. So let me go, since we can talk and can go back and forth a little bit. If I'm correct in my remembrance in some things, that's about a little more than the 7-acre property, just below
it's actually 0.71 acres. It's just under 3/4 of an acre.
Oh, it's not. Oh,
This is maybe a different piece than you're thinking of. I think you're thinking of the pieces just west of the parcel that we have on today.
A number of 4 different places gave me a different parcel for that address. Okay. All righty. Then we'll get much more simple, because I won't be asking you about why is it only open space and not the farming that it used to be and things like that. A couple of quick questions, though. I'm obviously very much for buying this. Is there any reason to use or not? Is it possible to use the CPF for the purchase?
This particular property would be acquired directly from Suffolk County, I believe, as part of a tax lien default in taxes.
I understand that, but is there any legal? What are the reasons why?
I don't know that there is. It is a rather small sum of money, so. I don't think
I'll go over the plus and the minus. I think there's good and there's plus and minus. One is I'll start with the town, in my opinion, could use a big revision of preserved land that we haven't done much in code since the 1990s and the CPF. And there are properties like this that we've bought, and they don't technically have any special protection in our code unless they've been made into a nature preserve, and this probably doesn't suit that. And or they do get a little more protection if they got bought by the CPF, even though they need more revision. That's why I was asking it. It's not critical, but I'd love to see it be discussed sometime.
Thank you, Zach. Appreciate you taking time to call, and be well. Give my best to Pamela.
I will. Thank you. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye-bye. Do we have another caller on the line, Jason?
Hello, my name is Andy Kasdan. Yes, hi, how are you? My name is Andy Kasdan. Excuse me?
I'm sorry.
I don't have one. Can you hear me now?
Andrew, I'm sorry, your
Thank
last
you.
name, please?
Kasdan.
Kasdan?
Kasden. Right. Thank you. I know you've heard this a lot, but I don't know. I live in Wainscott, and I don't know if any of you seen this barge that's out in the ocean right now in front of the beach. It's horrible. It's frightening. I know that's not going to be there, but I still, find the presence of it somewhat ominous in terms of what the future will bring in terms of doing this electrical windmill and running the lines through Beach Lane. And I just don't understand. I know the citizens for Wainscott have done a lot of research, looked at other options, and I'm not understanding why the town is just permitting this to go forward without due diligence and research and appropriate investigation before this company starts doing something and there's no turning back.
Well, Andrew, first of all, the town has been doing its due diligence, and we've been working on this for over 4 years now. And this has been through a number of reviews. It will continue to go through a number of reviews. The Public Service Commission evidentiary hearings will begin next month in early December. And this process, again, has been extensive. There's been a huge amount of information generated as per this review. So, the town board has been supportive of the project, renewable energy to the South Fork, to avoid the construction of new fossil fuel burning plants to provide electricity for our region. And much of the review has centered around the location of transmission cable landing site. And to date, this is the most efficient, least disruptive route to get to the ultimate destination, which is the Cove Hollow substation. And half of the route on land would occur over the railroad right-of-way. And as you know, the other half landing under Beach Lane Beach and buried within the roadways leading north to the railroad tracks. I understand that there's a lot of opinions, and there's been a lot of misinformation also about the project and what it entails. And I think, again, while we certainly don't normally see barge platforms like this near shore, this is a necessary part of doing geotechnical studies to ensure that the substrate of the underneath seabed will support horizontal directional boring to ensure that that cable can be 30 feet below the surface of the beach. So it's a necessary step in understanding whether or not the project can be completed as designed. and it will be on site for a short period of time, and then it will be gone.
Right. Maybe, you know, if you do feel there's misinformation that's been communicated, because I follow closely the advisory board emails, but maybe it's time for a letter from the town, one, addressing the fact that this thing is temporary and not representation of the deal going, of this proceeding, and two, really giving us a detailed update of where this stands. I don't understand why the town is not objecting to running this through Beach Lane, as there are other alternatives that are less destructive. And I think that it is just not being conveyed to everybody why the town would want to even consider running it through a residential neighborhood rather than other potential options.
Well, I think, you know, we've taken a look at other potential options, and to date, frankly, we've not seen any presented that provide a shorter route, less disruptive route to both people and the environment. So that's, you know, that's why we support this route.
Well, the residents don't, obviously, and I think if you're going to proceed with this or plan on it, it would be the right time to send a letter to all of the residents of Wayne-Scott and the whole town, outlining what the ramifications will be, how long the beach would be out of commission or not, what would be on land that you would actually see, what would you see in the ocean, and outline why you're supporting this project. Because as far as I know, and I read these other alerts that come from the committee, there are other options, there are other places, and if this is going to happen because that's what you're approving already, then let us all know what you're signing us up for.
Yeah, a lot of that information has been put out there, but again, it, you know, being able to reach every citizen and help them understand what actually is taking place is always somewhat challenging. But to your point, I think we could do another round of information about the project to the public. That would be helpful. I think that's a great suggestion.
Okay, I really think that would be
a quick comment here.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it.
I just want to make a quick comment here, if I may, and ask a question. I got notice of this from Deepwater on Saturday, and the barge was there on Sunday. I was just wondering if that's when everybody on the town board also got the word from Deepwater.
Well, we knew, Jeff, that this, and I don't know if you know how closely you've been following the information.
Pretty closely, Peter. Pretty closely.
We had, so if I can finish, Jeff, I just wanted to say that back in March, the town was contacted as to the coastal consistency review under the LWRP for this geotechnical work. And it was reviewed by staff, comments were made, and later, I think in May, I believe it was, the Department of State, DOS, issued a coastal consistency finding that the work was consistent. So subsequent to that, they also have 6 other agencies or 5 other agencies that reviewed this work and approved it. It is, the current location is beyond the town's jurisdiction with regard to LWRP, but even when the next borings take place, which are, I believe, 700, let's see, 780 feet off the beach, 1,470 feet off the beach. Both of those would be inside the LWRP jurisdiction. But again, the coastal consistency review of that project has been made, and the determination is that it is consistent with the LWRP.
Well, I just wonder also about our ordinary zoning jurisdiction. I seem to remember that our ordinary zoning jurisdiction extends out there, and maybe John Jolnicki can.
No, I don't believe that's the case, Jeff. Zoning.
Excuse me, I'd like to finish too. And it looks like it would involve a natural resources, a special permit issue as well.
we have another caller on the line?
Hi, this is from Wayne Scott, the angry man from Wayne Scott. Good morning.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Michael Hansen.
Michael.
Michael Hansen. Hi, Michael. How are you?
I'm the well-known angry man. I'm calling too about the barge. I actually, believe it or not, appreciate the previous caller's suggestion about better communications. I've had some friends who did not receive any information about it and were contacting me. The barge will be gone before Thanksgiving, so it's temporary. There's some folks in Wayne-Scott who, as you said so clearly, Mr. Von Scoyoc, are disseminating misinformation, saying that no one was alerted about this. I mean, I'm involved. I keep up to date with this. It was also in the East Hampton Star, the newspaper of record for the East End. So while communication, I think, from South Fork Wind needs to improve on this, the word was out there. And again, this is a temporary barge. It will be there for, like I said, gone before Thanksgiving. Just one more other comment about what the previous caller said. The wind turbines will be 35 miles east of Wayne-Scott. So, I mean, I calculate that to be 47 miles from Wayne-Scott Beach. We will not see them unless we are 100 feet tall. And I'm a tall man, and I will not be able to see them. Thank you again, Mr. Von Scoyoc, for your description of what is occurring with the South Fork Wind project. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to call in, Michael. Do you have any other callers on the line?
Hey, good morning. This is John Corain over in Sag Harbor. As a board member of the Noyac Civic Council, which represents over 1,500 residents, taxpayers here in the town of Southampton, I'd just like to thank the town board in East Hampton for your continued study of the airport problem and the noise being inflicted and the health issues being inflicted on your neighbors to the west. I know this is a complicated issue. I know that the clock is running, but Peter and Jeff in particular, who's always accessible on this, I just want to reiterate, even now in the off season, the volume of loud, low-flying aircraft coming in over our communities to your west. And my hope is that you'll have the courage and conviction and support to make the necessary changes next year when you get back local control. But the purpose of today's meeting, and I can be an angry man sometimes too, as Jeff well knows from the IMAX sessions, but today is really one of just to say thanks to all of you for acknowledging that there is a serious problem and for working diligently to try to come up with solutions.
Thank you, John. We appreciate that. And, we're going to stay on the issue until we get some reasonable restrictions or other solutions that improve the quality of life here for us. And we know that right now, even though the season's over, that there's a lot of reverse commuting going on between East Hampton Airport and the city. And we've seen a significant increase in the number of helicopter and operations for this time of year, which is not usual. And I think it's, relating obviously to the pandemic. But I think it also serves as a reminder that as we become a more year-round community, that air traffic is likely to increase throughout the entire year. So it's something we have to consider. We appreciate you taking the time to call in.
Yeah, absolutely. And Peter, I just want to make one more note, if I could, that historically
Sure.
the complaints were coming from helicopter traffic and what was the traditional Friday, Sunday commuters. I think the new dynamic that we've observed is the proliferation of private jets coming from many parts of the country. And it's surprising, and they come in loud and low, and that, I think, is our new challenge out here. It's no longer just the helicopters and the seaplanes. It's the use of private jets that are coming in from far and wide, and particularly as a neighbor of yours to the west, we seem to be burdened by that because of the runway situation and the proximity of the airport to the Southampton town line. So again, further complications, but again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for the hard work on this, and I remain cautiously optimistic that when you get back local control, some good things can happen there for our community on the East End.
Thanks, John.
Thanks
Good to
again,
hear
John.
from you.
Okay.
Jason, do we have any other callers on the line?
Yes, we do. Moving on to the next caller. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hello.
Is that me?
Yes. Could you please state your name for the town, please? Thank you.
This is Carolyn Logan Gluck calling.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hello, Peter. How are you this morning?
I'm very well, thank you.
Good. I'm calling about the soil testing that the Orsted is undertaking, as you can well imagine. I'm wondering, have you been to Beach Lane in the past couple of days?
I have seen photographs of the rig at Beach Lane. I haven't personally been there.
I invite you to come down and just see it in person, because I think the photographs give a mistaken impression of what this lift boat looks like. But I just wanted to communicate to you that there's been a great range of responses. Obviously, there's great support, such as that offered by my good neighbor, Michael Hansen. But I would say predominantly what I've heard from my neighbors here in Wainscott ranges from surprise to sorrow to outrage and to downright confusion. And you represent us, so I think it's really important for you to know that. And to the earlier caller's point, I, for one, would really appreciate better communication. I also, like Jeff, heard from Jen Garvey late on Saturday that this was going to be installed. I was told that work would be starting on Monday, so I was pretty surprised to see the lift boat installed when I went for my morning walk on Sunday morning. And furthermore, I think there were people who live closer to the beach than I do who were quite startled by all of the lights that were flashing around at 2:30 in the morning, even though it was a starry night. So if in fact it's true that you've known about this since March or May or whenever, we in Wainscott, and I as chair of the Wainscott CAC, would really appreciate being better informed with a little bit of time so that we can share what we know and also respond to the numerous emails that get sent in our direction. I also wanted to ask you a question, which is whether or not you had a chance to review the alternatives that were proposed by Citizens for the Preservation of Wainscott at our Saturday meeting 2 Saturdays ago for the Wainscott CAC.
So to your first point, Carolyn, I do appreciate the fact that none of us knew that this was going to begin until we got notice on Saturday. I agree it would have been helpful to know. I think it's important to also understand that the process of the review for this stage of the project, the investigation of the geotechnical borings, that process began, as I said earlier in the meeting, in March. They had a number of stays due to COVID, and the review obviously was lagging. I think they had 6 different stays on that application, and they had specific windows in which the work could occur. And I will note that I believe November 15th was the end of the Atlantic sturgeon avoidance period, and that's why it began when it did. To your point, certainly would have been helpful for all of us to know with more time to understand exactly what we're going to see and when. The town did know that this work was going to occur, and I think that was publicized on a number of occasions in the past, that this would take place at some point in the future. Again, you know, I share your concern about the short notice. I think it would have helped us all to have notice a little further ahead. Again, that work is beyond the town's jurisdiction as it's cited currently. To your second
Can I
point,
just jump in on that?
I'm not sure that it is. I'm not sure that it is beyond our.
well,
Peter?
Jeff, I appreciate. Can I just answer the second question that Carolyn had asked me? Thank you. I have not yet had
Peter?
an opportunity to review the Wayne-Scott CAC presentation by citizens for the preservation of Wayne-Scott. I do know that they had suggested Atlantic Avenue as a landing site. Frankly, that means a much greater distance overland, a great deal more disruption overland. You understand that the ultimate destination of that transport cable has to be the Cove Hollow substation. And there are a number of technical hurdles that the Amagansett landing site would have to overcome. And frankly, I don't believe, from what I've understood about that potential route, that it's nearly as viable as the Wayne-Scott one. And I understand that some folks in Wayne-Scott, you know, are very concerned about that. Again, this is a temporary situation with the platform being where it is. It will be removed. And ultimately, the transport cable would be buried underground. There is no visual impacts once installed. So, Jeff,
yeah,
did you want to make a
I
comment?
appreciate all of that points.
Jeff, did you want to make a comment?
I was just questioning about. I just have a question about whether this is within the town's jurisdiction. I would defer to John Jelnicki, but I think it is. At least some of it is, and it looked to me. I mean, I would think it also implicated a natural resources special permit. I just, you know, it would have been a little more neighborly and courteous to get advance notice. It's a pretty big vessel to, and I think it just would have helped. Would have been better communication.
We can agree on that.
And just to Carolyn's point, I agree that better notice would have been appropriate. I did go down to the location yesterday also, and it's a different vista than anyone's used to. And I hope Orsted would just let everyone know in advance of anything they might be doing. Again, this is exploratory, temporary, but it was startling a little bit to the residents. I can understand the discussions you might have with your neighbors.
I had a lot of discussion from the neighbors. A lot of letters, a couple calls.
Just not an oil drilling platform, though.
It just looks like one.
Do we have any other callers on the line? Oh, go ahead,
Peter?
Carolyn. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Can I just ask one more thing?
Of course.
I appreciate your sense of urgency with, you know, erosion of our beaches and pine bark beetles, etc. But I am very concerned that all of this preliminary testing is going to have an impact on the fairness of the Article 7 review process. Do you share my concern or not? And if so, why?
So Carolyn, the application is for Beach Lane. So I think, that the geotechnical borings definitely support the design of the cable transmission lines, and ensures that the horizontal directional boring can be completed in a way that ensures that exposure of the cable will not happen under any circumstances. So I think it's an important investigative tool in understanding the viability of the proposed route. And to the degree that that information supports, a positive design, then yes, I do think it does move the project further along and probably closer to approval by the Public Service Commission.
Very well. Well, I just want to reiterate, communication is so important, and I, for one, will really appreciate having as much relevant information shared in a timely fashion. That would be very helpful.
Agreed, and we'll try to do our best to ensure that in the future that operations are communicated well in advance. We've done a pretty good job of that in the past. In this particular case, none of us really were notified prior to Saturday as to the beginning of this work. So we agree with you on that, certainly.
Okay. Thank you, Peter. Have a good morning.
Thank you, Carolyn. Thanks for taking the time to call in.
Moving on to the next caller.
Good morning.
Hello, caller. You are on the air.
My name is Carrie Gilbert.
Hi, Carrie. How are you?
I am just fine, and I want to thank you and the town and all for the care that you've given the seniors during these times, and a few of the 90-year-olds who from the center have expressed so much gratitude for their recognition of their being 90 plus. And I called today to ask, can you give me any information on what's up with our senior building that's been on for years now, and we're getting older, and we'd like to see it before we make our transition. So is there anything up to date as to what's going on with the senior citizens building?
Sure, Carrie. We have an alternate location, alternate site, and we are in the process of trying to finalize an agreement on an acquisition that would be a future potential site for the senior center. I think we're getting much closer to finalizing that, and we hope to be able to make an announcement about its location in the near future.
I certainly hope so, and I was hoping that when it is done, then maybe we can have a little, everything is now communication. We all have all of this modern technology, but it's still hard to get anything really from in line of communication, and not from the town, but from anywhere. And you probably know this is true of everything. But could we find some way, maybe could communicate down to the center, East Hampton Senior Center, and maybe Michelle or Diane or someone there could let some of the members there know what's going on, because several people have asked. And also, could someone younger people who will really be around, we hope to take advantage of it also, but could be on sort of the committee when you're planning this, that the building, and we're going to have faith and hope that it's going to come soon, and that could some other people be included on it that we hope to be around to enjoy it. And we hope that by the time that you'll be enjoying it also.
Well, I'm frankly eligible to enjoy it now, being over 60. And we certainly appreciate you calling. And I just want to say that, we have been experiencing delays with regard to acquisitions, partially due to the county title searches and whatnot take much longer now. There's just there's a limited amount of time that any individual has within the county clerk's office to research. I think they limit to 1 hour individuals to do title searches. And so there's quite a backlog on that. Hopefully we can, get to a point where we can complete this process of acquisition and make the announcement soon. Again, I know many seniors are quite anxious to hear and frankly, quite anxious to be able to get back together and meet in any location. And it was really
yes,
great.
Definitely. We miss that spot. We're like family there, and they treat us like family there. So we thank all of you for all your help in keeping us safe and wanting the best for us. So also the money is still there, isn't it? Wasn't it bonded for the building?
We still have a new senior center in our capital plan. Obviously, we adjusted the dates, but we do have money earmarked for that.
Wonderful. And as I speak to people, it's good because having the information come that people know and we really know, so they're not things where this way and that way, that we actually know that it's in the making, that the money is there, because some people have a feeling that the money isn't there, but we know that it's still in the making, and after all of this is over, there's something at the end of the rainbow.
Indeed.
Right.
Kathy, you want to make
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to say, Ed Galligan is still doing his newsletters, and they're going out with the meals when they get delivered. So I believe that's happening.
Thank you very much, because I had called to ask, and I'm so delighted that I got a reply, and I found out that it was in the making. So this is wonderful. It's good news today.
Great.
So thank you very much.
It's great to hear from you, Carrie. You be well.
All right. All of you stay safe, and thanks again.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Have a good day. Thank you, and stay healthy.
You too.
Thank you.
Do we have any other callers?
So we have 2 callers who talked already, but they still stayed on the line. With your permission, may I cycle back to them to make sure that all is well?
Sure.
Thank you. Hello, caller. You are on the air.
Hi, thank you. I was just listening in with regards to other individuals' comments. So thank you again for giving me the opportunity to speak earlier today. This is Teresa. So thank you, everyone. Be safe.
Okay.
You too.
Okay, and we just had a new caller who just joined. I'm unmuting now.
Thank you.
Hello, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, this is Reverend Jones in East Hampton.
Hi, Reverend Jones.
Hello?
How are you?
Great, and I hope all is well with all of you all. I was calling because I just heard about the information that is given with the meals to the seniors.
Hello, Reverend.
And I was
would you do me a favor,
Reverend Jones?
Sorry.
Yes.
You have the TV on in the background, and I'm hearing the loop starting to happen. If you could mute that or turn that off temporarily, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Okay, is that better? I'm so sorry for that. But what I wanted to see if we could get everyone do not receive the lunches, and I am one, so I don't really get any of the information. And I was wondering if it could be sent out to the seniors that at this time is not accepting the meals, that we could get information as well to what's happening with the senior citizen, and just keep us in the loop also. And also I would like to ask about the food pantry. Is the food pantry still considered a part of the senior citizen building at this time?
So yes, the East Hampton Food Pantry is still being considered as part of the new senior center. And I know a month or so ago, folks at the senior center reached out to members to see if they wanted to be on an email list. And if you gave your permission for us to send you emails, we can certainly send out those newsletters electronically.
That would be great. And I thank you.
Take care.
Thank you too, Reverend. It's nice to hear you.
And you also.
Okay, and
Jason, do we have any other callers?
Yeah, I was going to cycle back to that one last person who's still on the line over here. Hello, caller. You are unmuted. Caller 7877.
Oh, hey, how are you? This is Craig Van Sickle. How's everybody?
Doing well.
Hi, Craig. Hello.
Hey. I was calling, and I'm not sure whether this is the timing, but about the consideration of the stretch building code versus, is that something you're considering today?
We are going to discuss that later in the meeting. Did you have comments you wanted to make about that at this point?
Sure, if I may, that would be great. I just was, we had our energy sustainability meeting yesterday, and a number of us were thinking about trying to accelerate the building code. While of course the stretch building code is a great idea to improve it from the existing building code in terms of energy savings and emissions reductions. Every time we, a new building, we miss an opportunity to build a house that is not net zero. The legacy of that house persists for 30, 50 or more years. So there's a real imperative to try to we don't have, that's beyond the time frame that we have to reduce our emissions to the extent that we need to. So, technologies here with super insulated houses and heat pumps and so forth, it's just a matter of willpower. Lauren had brought up that she thought that it would meet resistance, and I suspect she's correct. And one suggestion was to promote it in terms of the savings that it would create, because it would. But having faced this challenge and opportunity over the years with developers, both in the city and when I came out here, the challenge is that the costs of building net zero and having a very well-insulated house, and then sometimes putting in solar and say heat pumps, is borne by the developer or the builder, yet the savings are enjoyed by the users. And so there's not, the incentive is sort of crossed up. And what I would suggest is that promoting a total cost of ownership model, so that when people are buying a house, they're not just considering the sticker cost of it, but they are contemplating what the long-term operating costs are blended with the purchase costs. That's how most purchases of most assets are considered anyway. Would help to promote the benefits of net zero. And then Gordian pointed out that many of the beneficial technologies like solar and net zero will not be adopted voluntarily for no other reason, just people are not thinking about it. And so another reason to have it be as a code is that the builders who are inclined to do it might perceive themselves at a disadvantage to spend the money, even though it's marginally more, because the other developers that are not spending the money are, going to be at an advantage just with people considering the face cost of the purchase. And so if you've made a code, then everybody would be on a level playing field who's having to invest in the beneficial technologies, and then they would all pass the costs on to the buyers, who would be the ones that would enjoy the savings, and so everybody would win. So I just wanted to, introduce those ideas as sort of a recap of what we discussed. And, obviously the promotion of net zero, so that people understand the total cost of ownership with the developers, the real estate industry, and the buyers would be, one sort of next step. And then, trying to accelerate our movement towards a net zero code so we don't continue to add to the legacy of houses that are not as optimal as they could be in reducing energy and emissions would be, really favorable. So just wanted to add that comment.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, Trey, and thanks for your efforts helping us get closer to reaching our goal. I like the total cost of ownership idea. I think, when you buy a major appliance now, it has an Energy Star rating. It gives you an idea of the energy consumption for that particular appliance, the cost over time. It's helpful to know. And I think you make a really good point about the upfront costs versus the, lifetime costs. And we certainly want to both reduce people's costs of energy use as well as reduce the need for energy, especially the type that generates carbon emissions. So thanks for taking the time to call us.
I mean, to that point, that if you did that, the ongoing savings would greatly outweigh the marginal upfront costs. So net, it's going to be a savings for everybody. Just as long as the developers don't feel like they're getting stuck with the cost without getting the benefits, then everybody would win because they'd be able to pass on the costs, and then the buyers would be ultimately saving money. So it would be better.
Thanks again for taking the time to call us.
Thank you.
Be well.
Appreciate it. You too. Yep.
Do you have any other callers?
We have one.
Do we have any other callers on the line, Jason?
Yes, we do. And unmuting right now.
Hi, good morning, Peter. Good morning, Town Board. This is Bonnie Brady calling. How are you?
Hi, Bonnie. I'm well.
I'm calling just to find out briefly about the opt-out for the energy, what do you call it? I saw it last week. I'm sorry.
CAC.
I'm sorry?
CAC.
CCA.
Yes.
I'm sorry, CCA, Community Choice Aggregation.
CCA, exactly. I saw that it was passed last week, and I'm curious as to when the residents of the town of East Hampton are going to be receiving information regarding the ability to opt out of the program. I haven't seen anything per se.
So Bonnie, at this point, basically what the town's done is we've passed enabling legislation. We're just really in the very early stages, and you'd have to have an administrator appointed. There's a lot more work to be done on this. So, and again,
I've been following it, but I wasn't sure if when you approved it, if you had already had steps in place, or if this was just the beginning level.
No,
okay, that's what I need to know.
My understanding is that also residents could opt out at any time after a CCA is set up. So there's
but they have to opt out. It's not a matter of opting in. It's forcing people to opt out. So I was wondering when that.
Yeah, I mean, if you decide
whether there'd be a mailer to the town or.
Yeah, I mean, if you decide that you really don't want to use green energy and you want to just have the status quo energy, you can opt out.
Well, I think it's not only a matter of green energy, it's a matter of the mix, and it's a matter of what kind of mix is chosen and the cost level. There may be people for which the cost, unless you've got some great deal that you're planning, might not be something that they can afford. So, especially for those on fixed incomes. So I think it's really important to be able to announce that. So I'm sorry, I guess I'm putting the cart before the horse. Thank you very much.
Thanks for taking the time to call us, Bonnie. You be well.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment here that to Bonnie, because we don't know. In Westchester, people were saving money when they opted, when they had the enabling legislation. I mean, not when they actually did the program. So there is a potential savings. It's not always going to be something where you're going to end up paying more. But you certainly, when we get the program, we are a long way from getting this program up and running. And we would have the public, informed all along the way, because it's an important piece of a puzzle. And certainly we want the public participation. It always makes for a much better program. So we're just at the point where we can now even have a program if we choose to even have a program.
Right. I understand that. I just, because I know obviously the mix, whether they choose hydropower or not, or whatever the mix comes from, and I think that inherently will defend it or show what the price is, and depending on the different CCAs, I've seen them in California where they've been far more expensive as opposed to, I know the ones I'm familiar slightly with, the one in Westchester. But I think that is going to be vitally important into whether or not you opt in for what period of time or opting out, et cetera. I think all of that stuff needs to be very clear and very public so people aren't surprised.
I think you're right, and we'll make it very public and hope for public participation and communication, and that's the important part if this program is even going to move forward. But I thank you for the questions. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Take care, Bonnie.
And we have
You too.
one new caller.
I'm sorry,
Hello.
Jason, did you say we have
one
another
new
caller?
Yep. Hello, caller.
Yeah, hi, it's Rich Silver. Can you hear me?
Yes, Rich.
Hello.
How are you?
Yeah, hi. I came in a little late, but did hear the end of Cray's question and answer. Just wanted to echo his remarks and say that as a member of the town's Energy Sustainability and Resiliency Committee, I appreciate that the board has included on the agenda the NYSERDA discussion of the NY Stretch Energy Code. And I hope that the board will give this serious consideration, as I do think that it'll represent an important step forward in meaningfully reducing energy use and greenhouse gas emissions with the new and existing buildings. I also hope that going forward, the board can go above and beyond the stretch code as far as town-owned new and existing buildings. So that's it. Just wanted a couple brief comments. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you for taking the time, Rich. And thanks for serving on the Energy Sustainability Committee. Appreciate your volunteerism. Do we have any other callers on the line?
There's just one last caller on the line. I'm going to unmute them to make sure that they spoke previously, but it's going to unmute to make sure. Hello, caller, 7877. Hello, caller.
Oh, this is me again?
Yeah, I just wanted to make absolutely sure that you
Right?
that you were done, if you were on hold listening or etc.
Oh, no, I was just listening. I'm sorry.
All right,
yeah,
cool.
I don't
Just
have
wanted to double check.
I
and make
mean,
sure.
yeah.
All right, thank you.
I'm good. Appreciate it.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move on with our topics for discussion. And first up, we have the Montauk Wastewater District and Lake Montauk RFP Awards. Jeannie Carrozza, Kim Shaw, Melissa Winslow. If you're on the call with us, please come on screen and take it away. I think you might be muted, Jeannie.
There we go. Better?
Yeah, we can hear you now. Great.
All righty. The first, I just have a notice that I'll be putting up on Thursday. It's for Camp Hero Professional Management Services. So our current one is expiring at the end of the year, so we're putting up a new one. And also, actually, I just wanted to say they were going to have the recommendation for the 2 awards. You mentioned the Lake Montauk Stormwater Abatement Design, and the other is the Consulting Engineering Services for the map and plan of the wastewater collection system for downtown Montauk. And I believe Melissa Winslow was here for that, for those recommendations.
Sure.
Thank you, Jeannie. Melissa, good morning.
Good morning. Melissa Winslow from the Natural Resources Department. So I guess I'll start with the award for the Consulting Engineering Services for the map and plan of a wastewater collection system for downtown Montauk. So I wanted to start with just a little bit of background and history of how we got here. So water quality is crucial to the natural characteristics and value of Montauk. As sea level rise and storm surge are considered critical issues for Montauk, the creation of a new wastewater district and treatment system will provide opportunity to relocate current systems from low-lying areas. The shallow depth to water table in Montauk reduces the available capacity within existing leaching pools, resulting in the need for costly pump out services to prevent wastewater backup and overflows in many situations. It also creates a direct pathway for untreated sanitary wastewater to enter the environment, which poses a potential threat to public health. Many of the existing on-site sanitary disposal systems within the downtown area, as well as throughout the hamlet, are not constructed in accordance with current standards, so they don't function properly. So because of this, the town has really been focusing in recent years on wastewater management solutions and upgrades throughout East Hampton to reduce our environmental impact and improve the water quality of our local lakes, ponds, and harbors. This process started with the comprehensive wastewater management plan that was completed in 2015 and laid the groundwork for further development of wastewater upgrades. In September 2017, we kicked off the Septic Rebate program to upgrade residential and commercial septic systems to the advanced treatment for low nitrogen septic systems. To date, we've had over 165 systems, the number increases by the day, that have been installed just through this program, with many more systems pending. And the town continued on this path for upgrading wastewater treatment throughout 2017 with an investigation into potential solutions for the downtown Montauk area by preparing a strategic management plan, and also formed the Montauk Community Wastewater System Committee, which is overseeing this project. So it was determined by the town that in order to move forward with investigating the feasibility and implementation of a municipal wastewater collection and treatment facility for downtown Montauk, that the next step was to prepare a map and plan. This is really the first step in moving that project forward. So the town issued an RFP to solicit consulting engineering services to prepare and submit a map and plan to create a wastewater management system to service primarily the downtown Montauk area, which consists of approximately 200 developed properties. The services provided in connection with the proposed map and plan included drafting a motion to form a wastewater collection and treatment district, confirm the limits of the new district boundary, confirm and determine design flows, the waste and waste strength and discharge limits, determine or confirm wastewater collection system type, and then also the layout of the collection and pump stations, determine capital and annual operating costs, analyze the system type and the tax implications with that system type, and then also identify potential sources of funding that could help the town offset those costs, which would include grant funding through federal, state, or county, or private funding sources. So the awarded contractor will really consider the feasibility of installing a conventional centralized system, or also to consider decentralized wastewater system for the hamlet. So this could be potentially many smaller IEA systems rather than one larger sewage treatment plant. Candidate sites for treatment and disposal were also to be investigated to identify the best location for treatment. And then the service area is to be considered in phases, starting with downtown Montauk area as the first priority. So getting into the proposals, we got 6 proposals in total. There was a selection team formed within the town that looked at each proposal for qualifications of the project team, familiarity with the area and the project itself, references, the firm history and capability to perform this project, relevant project experience, and then also lastly, cost was evaluated separately. So total costs ranged from $59,000 to $207,851.70. So it was a pretty wide range that we received. There were many well-qualified candidates, but the team felt that H2M Architects and Engineers was the firm with the highest score and had the most extensive and impressive list of previous experience. They've completed maps and plans for many different municipalities all over Long Island. through their proposal, it was clear that H2M has a very thorough understanding of the process of how to get this job done. They have a very skilled team of engineers and planners who met the requirements to prepare a map and plan. They can also very efficiently assist the town with complying with SECRA, and their total cost we felt was appropriate for the task. They also have a very good track record with securing grants for wastewater treatment projects and incorporated a plan for citizen participation, which was really important to the committee. So the committee unanimously agreed to recommend H2M for the award, and their total cost was $129,500.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Any questions for Melissa from the board?
I'm just curious, have we ever worked with H2M before, Melissa?
I don't believe so, or at least not in my experience.
For myself, it seems like a lot of the criteria that you mentioned are extremely important for this, particularly, as you said, in the citizen outreach planning on there, and based on the, the environmental criteria that Montauk has, either with clay lenses, depth of groundwater and such. It's not going to be one size might fit all. So it's nice that they're going to be looking at a lot of different strategies to get the same result, which is, the environmental benefit, and nitrogen pollution. So I appreciate your team moving this forward. I know that Peter's been looking at this for a very long time, Sylvia and others too.
Yeah, I think it's really important to try to make sure that we find the solution that's the best fit for the community. So whether that's one larger system or many smaller decentralized systems, I think the team will really take a look at what's going to be have the biggest impact and make the most sense.
Melissa, did they provide a time frame to do this, this aspect of the plan?
They did. Kim, do you recall the time frame for the map and plan? The time frame?
We should be in contract the first of the year.
In contract by the first of the year. And then I believe it would be 4 months to prepare the map and plan.
Thank you.
And John, I just wanted to, you've worked with H2M in the past and you've had very positive experience with them, correct?
Yeah, they were contracted for the town many years ago, and they were their work was very good. Yeah, we were happy with their work. They haven't worked for the town for a number of years, but only recently did we start to get some RFP responses from them. And this is the first one that I'm aware of in recent years that we're considering approving. But they have a very good reputation. So I think they certainly seem well qualified for the task that's at hand for them. So.
Well, personally, I'm quite excited that we're at a point where we're hiring consultants for a map and plan for downtown Montauk. This area was recognized early on in the wastewater management plan as an area that needed to be addressed, both for human health concerns as well as environmental concerns. Much of the downtown does not have the physical space to afford on-site treatment, and given the density of those locations and the number of restaurants and other uses that generate large volumes of wastewater, such as hotels, having an effective treatment for downtown and some other regions in Montauk, ultimately in the dock area, and also potentially out towards Stitch Plains, where you also have extremely high density and low depth to groundwater adjacent to inland bodies of water. This is really, I think, a critical time for us to address these long-standing needs within the community. And so I'm happy that we're at a point where we have a recommendation. We'll have a vote on this recommendation Thursday night, I believe, and hopefully we can move forward. And thank you, Melissa. And Jeannie, I think you also have the Lake Montauk RFP award as well. Can you give us some information about that and the recommendation there?
Sure, Melissa has the information on that as well.
Yep. So we put out, this is actually the second round of this RFP for the professional engineering services for Lake Montauk stormwater abatement design. So 3 projects were selected from the Town of East Hampton Water Quality Improvement Plan and were approved by the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee for further engineering design. We originally presented these projects to the town board in February of 2018 and issued the first RFP in March of 2019. This was rejected just to readjust the project scope. One of the projects was dropped originally because we thought it would really hold up the other projects. It was a very complicated project that needed a little bit more review and development. So we reissued this RFP in August 2020 to retain a consultant to prepare designs to make these projects shovel ready. So there was 3 projects. The first one was South Lake Permeable Pavement, really taking this parking area and making some improvements for stormwater improvement. Kind of the same thing for project 2 for Westlake Permeable Pavement. We had 2 locations, Star Island Town Dock and the Westlake Boat Ramp. And then the last project was Westlake Bioretention and Vegetated Swales. There was also 2 locations here, the intersection of Westlake Drive and Flamingo, and then also Westlake Drive and Star Island Road. So the RFP included, in addition to project completion proposals and work plans, on-site feasibility testing in order to make sure that these projects are going to be successful and, each final design is going to actually improve stormwater abatement. So this included soil analysis, infiltration testing, groundwater depth investigation, and water quality monitoring plans. We also included making sure that each project had a maintenance and project management plan to ensure the longevity of the project, and then also have community outreach and education to make sure that the community is on board and understands the importance of doing these projects and why we're moving forward with this. So the committee reviewed all of the 6 proposals that we received through this RFP. Review criteria included local experience with sustainable landscapes and water quality improvement, focus on best available technology, clear understanding of the requirements, and then lastly, the cost. The cost ranged from $113,980 to $299,687. After reviewing all of the proposals, the committee felt that 2 of the proposals really stood out, and we wanted to bring them in for interviews. So these were the 2 highest scoring during the provisional evaluations. Following the review interviews, the committee was kind of split and decided to split the projects between the 2 teams based on proposals for different projects. So PW Grosser Consulting had the most impressive design for the South Lake parking area, which included pervious pavement in suitable areas, native vegetated rain gardens, and kind of a whole revitalization of the site to serve and capture and treat runoff from the lot. So the total cost for PW Grosser for that project was $25,470. And then D&B Engineers and Architect was the committee thought that their proposal was the most well-rounded and well-prepared. The team proposed some innovative solutions for subsurface treatment at the Star Island dock area, which the team was really impressed with, and would have a very big impact on improving drainage improvement in that area, and will still allow for full use of the site. This is called the ADS Storm Tech that they proposed, and they've successfully installed in other areas on Long Island. They also had the most thorough proposal for the Westlake bioretention areas, which was project 3. They incorporated on-site observations in their proposal to provide details and recommendations for the best treatment that we could get there. So the total cost for those 2 projects was $57,600 for the Star Island Dock and Westlake Boat Ramp designs. And then for project 3, $62,750 for the Westlake bioretention. So the committee is recommending to the town board to award project 1 to PW Grosser, and then projects 2 and 3 to D&B Engineers and Architects. So the combined total cost for all 3 projects would be $145,820.
Questions for Melissa? Great. Melissa, thanks so much. And again, we're glad to see that we're making progress on some of the areas that have been chronic rainwater runoff impacts to Lake Montauk, as well as other projects we've done around town to help abate those areas, the runoff in those areas. So thank you for all your help on this, and we look forward to the resolution on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. And stay on the line, I guess, because next up we have water quality technical advisory recommendations for the trustees pump out vessel. And again, trustees that applied for water quality technical advisory funds under the CPF. And we have Melissa Winslow and Christopher Clapp, who's the chairman of the Water Quality Technical Advisory. Chris, are you still with us?
I'm still here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Melissa, so I'll just share my screen. I have a presentation ready.
Great.
Can you all see that?
Yes.
Great. The town trustees came to the CPF Water Quality Committee and had a request for funding for an additional pump out boat, which would be a cost share as they received an additional grant to offset those costs. And I have Chris Clapp from the CPF Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee to make the recommendation.
This recommendation, as Melissa mentioned, is for a cost share of a new pump out vessel. As you know, the referendum to allow for 20% of CPF funds to go towards water quality projects explicitly calls out the capital costs associated with pump out programs, namely pump out vessels. The trustees have already secured a $60,000 grant from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation under their Clean Vessel Act program. They received a quote from a boat builder for $108,570.70. That would bring the CPF or the town's cost share through the CPF request to $48,570.70. I believe that this vessel is primarily to serve 3 Mile Harbor and Lake Montauk. However, another advantage to this vessel is that it's built with the exact same components and by the same builder as our previous boats. So if something happens, parts are interchangeable. Supports the water quality initiatives of the town and the Peconic Estuary program through our no discharge zones. And it's a fairly straightforward. Some statistics here on the pumpage of the boats this past year. Roughly 84,000 gallons of waste were pumped from Lake Montauk boats, and 34,000 from 3 Mile Harbor this past year, which is much higher than in previous years as people had escaped towards the East End during the COVID crisis. And the goal is to increase their operation to a third boat for this next season. And the trustees handle all other non-capital related expenses. Okay. And this is what we would expect the new vessel to look like.
I suspect it won't say Friends of Casco Bay on the side. It'll be more like
well, it will say
Friends of East Hampton Town Trustees.
Yes. East Hampton Town Trustees.
Yeah, exactly.
So this request was brought to the committee this past fall, and the advisory committee unanimously voted to recommend to the town board a award to the trustees in the amount of $48,570.70 to purchase a new pump out boat specifically for Lake Montauk. And questions?
Do we have questions for Chris?
So when would that boat be available for the season, at the beginning of the season for 2021?
That is the goal, that if we were able to get them, get the boat ordered, or if the trustees could get the boat ordered this fall, that they could potentially have delivery by the spring. The only caveat I saw in the proposal from the builder was if any COVID restrictions inhibit them from delivering on time. So they are currently up and running, and we hope that they stay up and running and able to deliver this boat on time.
Great, thank you.
I think they're on track for that. They've executed their contract with the state for their grant, so they're on the right path.
And who was the manufacturer of the boat? And where are they located?
I have that information. I just don't have it handy. I can send that over to you if you like.
Marine Boat Builders Company of Warwick, Rhode Island.
Okay. So it's a roadie boat. And make good boats, Rhode Island.
Chris, Melissa, I have a question for you. Sorry about that, Peter.
Go ahead, David.
I have a question for either Chris or Melissa. I don't know if you have the answer for this one, but looks like that there's about 150,000 gallons of fluid that's being pumped out of these boats, and understanding that it's within the Peconic Estuary Program's no pump out zone. And I know we get some grants for removal of some of that effluent at our two disposal sites that we have, one in Montauk and one on Gann Road. But what about commercial entities that, marinas that bring their boats over for pump outs at the end of the season? Do marinas have to have their own pump outs also? Do we charge commercial entities for pumping out of their boats and they bring it over to the docks? Are you familiar with that aspect of this program at all? Or is that probably a question maybe better for the trustees?
That might be.
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, that might be a detail better left to the trustees. If they are using the same holding facility that the pump out boats discharge to, then it's a shared expense. I'm trying to think of what you mean by like head boats and recreational and charter boats. At
the end of the season when you winterize boats, what a fluid might be left in a boat that might be being pulled out. Does that get taken care of by the actual marina itself, or do the marinas? Anecdotally, I've heard the marinas send them over to our pump out stations.
It varies, David. In my experience, I believe there are some marinas that do have some pump out facilities. However, they generally charge their customers for that, for that service. If they're winterizing, they might be charging that as part of the winterization costs. But I do know that individuals take advantage of the pump out, for instance, at 3 Mile Harbor, Gann Road, or at the self pump out at Star Island. That's free for boaters to use.
I just look at, with COVID, so maybe more 1,000 gallons is, more $1,000 of taxpayer dollars in the commercial entity. So I'll track that down. Thank you very much, Chris and Melissa. Yeah. I support this too.
Yeah, I just want to say I supported it as well, and kudos to the trustees for turning towards Lake Montauk, even though it's technically out of their jurisdiction.
Well, Kathy, you bring up a really good point. I just want to take a moment to thank the trustees and commend them. I think we have an exceptional trustee board, probably one of the best ever in terms of addressing the areas that are under their jurisdiction, and even taking an interest in those that are beyond. They're very conscious about the importance of clean water and protecting our environment here. And just a great group of individuals, very smart and dedicated. So I totally support this committing of funds towards that effort.
So I just want to say, yeah, the trustees are a very active group, and I do watch them occasionally on LTV and see how much work they're really doing, and I appreciate what they're doing. This in particular is helpful. And to Kathy's point that they're helping even in Montauk where the trustees don't have jurisdiction, we also have a trustee from Montauk, which means that, again, the trustees are interested in the entire community, not just where there might be trustee, lands that they are looking at. So, and thank you again for running for election when that happens and you're from an area that may not get the representation that they need. And I'm glad there is a representative from Montauk.
I believe there are 3.
Yeah.
Right? There's 3 trustees from Montauk.
Any other questions?
I join in the support of this project and the trustees.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Chris or Melissa?
No.
And we thank you both for your time today and keeping us informed in your recommendations. We look forward to the resolutions on Thursday night. Next up, we have the New York Energy Stretch Code. And I believe we have Marilyn Dare from NYSERDA, Margot Thompson, and Matt Evans from Newport Ventures. And if they can join us if they're still on the line.
Still on the line, but
yes,
not able to be seen.
Okay, Marilyn, well, welcome. We appreciate you being here today to discuss this with the town board.
Oh, this is more delayed.
Lauren, you were going to go ahead and start?
Yeah, if that's okay, I'll just do a quick introduction for the team that's presenting. So we felt that this was important to bring to the town board's attention. Buildings account for approximately 1/3 of New York State's greenhouse gas emissions. Reducing emissions from buildings starts with improving building codes. As you'll hear this afternoon from our presenters, the New York Stretch Energy Code is a first step in the evolution of New York State building codes aimed at minimizing energy consumption, improving efficiency, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions on the way to the state's target of net zero building by 2031. Improving the energy efficiency of buildings not only provides the benefit of reducing emissions that are accelerating global warming and climate change, but it can also help to reduce utility costs for homeowners and tenants. So I'd like to introduce and thank for being here from NYSERDA, Marilyn Dare, from Newport Ventures, Margot Thompson, and Matt Evans, who will be giving this afternoon's presentation on the 2020 New York Stretch Energy Code. Whenever you all are ready.
Thank you. I think somebody has the presentation, or am I to share it with you all?
You can share your screen if you like.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Sorry. No. It doesn't seem as if it's allowing me to share, unfortunately. I sent it to,
I believe
you sent it.
Oh, let me see. Let's see.
Apologize.
Okay. All right. Can everybody see that?
We don't see a screen, just Margot Thompson is all I see on the screen.
Oh, dear.
Excuse me, Mr. Supervisor, this is Mike.
There we go.
There we go. We have it now.
Okay.
Hold on.
All right. Whose screen do you have? I'm sorry.
It looks like it's mine. I'm trying to unshare it because I can't seem to get it to the right screen. I apologize. I wasn't realizing I was going to be sharing my my screen with you all. I very much apologize. This doesn't seem to be me, actually.
if someone wants to send that presentation to our staff or one of us.
Oh,
here it is.
Well, I'm sorry. I thought we did.
So yeah, I have it. It's on a different computer than one I'm using.
You send it to me, Sylvia, and I
Yep. Okay.
see if I can put it up.
I just sent it.
Okay. Appreciate everybody's patience as we work through this technical glitch here. I'm waiting for the email. And here we go. Let's see. Okay. How's that? Can people see that?
Yep, that's great.
Great, thank you very much, and I apologize for that. Marilyn Dare, Senior Vice President.
And we can put it on, excuse me, you want to put it on slideshow? To have full screen?
Oh, that's a good idea, thank you. Right up at the top there.
At the top, yeah, right there.
From the beginning.
From beginning.
There you go. Thank you. So I'm Marilyn Dare, Senior Project Manager at NYSERDA for Energy Codes. Very happy to be here presenting to you today. Joining me are Matt Evans and Margot Thompson, who are consultants who are helping me do the outreach of New York Stretch across the state. Next slide, please. Kind of echoing what Craig had mentioned, the caller prior to this presentation, we need to accelerate our building practices. We need to accelerate a lot of things in order to achieve the net zero energy codes by 2030. And as you're all probably aware, especially because of the offshore wind efforts, New York State passed the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act to help us accomplish these goals. And we're primarily here for our purposes are here to talk about the energy savings, this 185 TBTU of on-site energy savings that we're hoping to achieve by 2025. Stretch energy codes and advanced energy codes were considered key elements for those energy savings, and we're here to try and accelerate that even further as we can. Next slide, please. A stretch code is really just a code that goes beyond what the current energy code New York State requires. And the reason that this is important is if we were following a business as usual path, much like what was being said earlier by one of the callers, we're really not going to get to the point we need to be at for net zero construction or considering carbon neutral construction even if we continue to follow the paths that the model codes have presented to us. To get to a net zero code by 2030, we really need to accelerate that by at least 10% per year, if not more. And that's what New York Stretch has been able to accomplish with this particular code cycle. Next slide, please. So the Article 11 of the New York State Energy Law allows any municipality to adopt a local energy code as long as it's more efficient than the state's energy code. And New York Stretch is around 11% more efficient than the state's code is that was adopted in May of this year. The code is an overlay, the Stretch code is an overlay of the New York State code. And what it's doing is preparing the municipalities for what we are anticipating future code cycles to look like. It's based on proven technologies. It's nothing that isn't, it isn't rocket science, that's in other words. So it's proven technologies, proven construction techniques and the like to achieve the greater efficiency in buildings, houses, and commercial properties as well. It underwent a diverse review by both stakeholders and public comment periods. We were working on this for the New York stretch for over 1.5 years and received significant comments from industry and from technical experts to help us fine tune this and make it the best we could provide at this point in time. Next slide, please. So really the comparison, we actually have comparison documents that we can share with your code officials and the like. It's creating a tighter window, tighter envelope for buildings, which improves not just energy efficiency, but also improves resilience, which is important on Long Island, as we know. They've accomplished that with better windows, more insulation, air leakage testing, and the like. Lighting power density, if you will, is reduced so that we're getting greater light with less power, including lighting controls, balanced ventilation, and whole building energy modeling. One of the important things about this code is that it is requiring people to build buildings that are ready for renewable energy and ready for electric vehicles. It's definitely cheaper to do this during new construction than it is during to retrofit an existing building into that. It has several different compliance paths. Introduces the passive house compliance path, which is one that is very popular around the state, and also the energy rating index, which is one that East Hampton and Southampton have both been using pretty specifically over the past couple of code cycles. Next slide, please. At this point, I'd like to have Margot take over for me to talk about the benefits to the communities, both in energy and non-energy. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, I'm Margot Thompson. Yeah, as Marilyn stated before, there's both energy benefits and a lot of non-energy benefits as well, both of which are important. The stretch code will save approximately 11% more energy compared to the ECCC-NYS, which is the base New York energy code, and pay back less than 10 years or between 9 and 11 years for both residential and commercial buildings. As all of you know, lower energy use means lower greenhouse gas emissions, which are important to Long Island as well as across the state. Some of the non-energy benefits that may not always be quantifiable, but still very important: healthier, more comfortable indoor air environments, more resilient buildings. When you reduce air leakage, you also reduce the potential for condensation in building cavities and thus mold, mildew, and rot. It allows greater autonomy in enforcing the code because it encourages third-party plan reviews by Energy Star raters or similar. So next slide, please. Clean energy communities. I think all of you are familiar with that because I think East Hampton has been participating in that program already, but and has received grants for clean energy projects. But adoption of the New York stretch renders you eligible for additional funding to do more green or clean energy projects.
And if I could just interject really quickly, my understanding is that the Malloy Institute and the Long Island Sustainable Leadership Group is going to be having a presentation on that. I believe it's next week. So you should have received an invitation to that from Neil Lewis and Andrew Mannett. Go ahead.
Okay. Is it possible to go back one slide? I think we might have skipped the residential side. Yeah, this one, I just wanted to cover this first because this may be of most interest to people at the meeting. Costs. For single family home, the approximate incremental cost per dwelling unit is about $2,460. And these are averages that were calculated across 4 different foundation types and 3 different fuel configurations. So it may not match a particular new home exactly, but it is in the ballpark. And just to give an idea of what that would mean on, say, a 30-year mortgage. On a $500,000 home, a 30-year mortgage with 20% down and at a 3% interest rate, a monthly payment would be about $1,660. When you add $2,500 to the cost of that new home up front, that changes the monthly payment by only $8. So it's increased to $1,668. So that is really manageable and affordable for almost anyone who's building a new home. So next slide, please.
Can I ask a question? I know when I was looking at this, a lot of those are done by statewide. We do have a geographical disadvantage out here as when it comes to building expenses, and our building expenses are actually higher than other areas in the state. Was that computed into this, or is this just a matrix that is an aggregate of entire?
May I? Margaret?
Yes,
yes, that was, in fact, you may have noticed that we separated New York City from the rest of the climate zone that Long Island is a part of. And we recognize that those costs are more expensive. They were looking at costs that were out of, one was in Westchester, and the other construction cost was, I believe, Brookhaven. So we did use an average of those construction costs to identify what it is regionally to build homes and buildings in Long Island.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I should also emphasize that for both the residential and the commercial analyses, these were based on a prescriptive compliance with the code, and that one could typically reduce costs or lower them by following a performance path or the ERI path. Secondly, they are before any utility or federal incentives that are available. So Long Island utilities do offer some programs and some tax or federal tax credits. On the commercial side, the cost is a little bit higher. The payback is slightly longer, but still not significant. Incremental costs of about 85 cents a square foot and a payback of approximately 11 years. Next slide, please. The map shows where we've already received strong interest in the stretch. New York City, Beacon, Hastings-on-Hudson, and Dobbs Ferry, those 3 cities are in the Hudson Valley, have all adopted the stretch code in the spring or this past summer. We also have strong interest from New Rochelle, White Plains, New Paltz, Saratoga in the capital region, and some towns near Manlius. You probably are aware that, Manlius is a town near Syracuse. Probably are aware that on Long Island, Southampton, we've had extensive conversations with them, and they are seriously considering adopting stretch. I think the virus slowed everybody down in this process. They had a lot of other things on their minds than the energy code.
And we've also been talking with Huntington as well.
Yes, I'm sorry. I meant Huntington. Next slide, please. NYSERDA has adopted a number of resources that can assist with adoption of the stretch. Fact sheets, a comparison document showing the differences between the stretch code and the ECCC-NYS, an adoption guide that also includes potential model language for local law, Training will be available as well as a hotline where anyone in the state can call in for a technical, with a technical question or for an interpretation. And then Matt and myself are available anytime for additional presentations, a phone call with just, hey, I have a question. We're available to do that. Next. Oh, one other thing, I think like East Hampton, or like Southampton, East Hampton is currently following and the ERI path for compliance. And that definitely is an option for the stretch to a tiered course where you would have one particular index required for homes less than 4,500 square feet and a lower index that typically would necessitate passive solar to reach an index of say 35. So that's
not passive solar, but actually PV to be installed.
Yes, PV.
Right. And that is something that as you're writing your local law, just as we've advised Southampton that they are still able to maintain that type of two-tier approach and to require the ERI path as their path for compliance, then that is totally fine. The beauty is that because of the requirements within New York Stretch on the residential side, especially the mandatory requirements, we see a lot of opportunity for better energy efficiency that way. And then the town code official has the benefit of third-party verification. So these are just a couple of case studies, and maybe just, a couple of case studies just to show you some things that have been going on elsewhere in the state. These are buildings that have met or would exceed New York Stretch. This particular one actually is a net zero, and they're using a lot of the mechanical features that are included in New York Stretch. So we do know that there are developers that have already distinguished themselves to go and build and design buildings that that are forward-thinking and resilient and then potentially net zero. So this one happens to be up in New Paltz. Like I said, a lot of the things that we are seeing in New York Stretch. Next slide, please. And the same here. This was actually a reuse of an existing building in the city of Hudson, where they used panelized wall assemblies to get the greater insulation and use typical air source heat pumps and the like for their HVAC and their ventilation systems. So you can see that there are definitely opportunities for this for developers, and we're seeing that kind of activity across the state. Next slide.
And one other thing, we've had a lot of questions on how the stretch code would apply to existing buildings. And really it would apply in the same way that the energy code does now. Substantial renovations, yes, might have to comply with the stretch code, but an alteration or just a remodel would not necessarily have to be brought up to the level of the stretch code.
And that was all we had for this presentation. We're happy to answer any questions that the board may have.
I actually have a question. So the town in 2017 adopted the HERS rating, the home energy rating system. Mm-hmm. So how does that interact with the stretch energy code? Like, does the HERS rating already get us where the stretch code would get us, or does the stretch code go beyond the HERS rating?
Good question. It's exactly the same question I was going to ask.
Margo or Matt, do you want to answer that?
This is Matt. I can chime in on that. Long-time HERS rater myself. The ERI, Energy Rating Index path, or what your town adopted, the ERI approach for the stretch code is a number that I believe is 50 or 51. And then as we've heard, you have another number to reach for larger homes, 35, right. I believe it is.
Yeah, we have 54 for dwellings up to 4,500 square feet and 35.
Yeah, the New York stretch code requires that number to go down to 50. So you're going to be getting a more efficient home with the stretch code, and the same thing with your larger homes as well. So it still all applies, same path is done HERS raters score the homes. They go in, they commission everything. It's a third set of eyes on the home from start to finish. And everything's documented, and the end result will be a more efficient home than what you currently have. And when you discuss and talk with contractors, most of these contractors that I've seen are going above and beyond current New York Energy Code. And a lot of them, if they look at the stretch code, are probably already meeting these requirements as well.
So for those homes that are up to 4,500, right now in our code, we've got 54. You're saying the stretch code would take that to 50.
That's
what
correct.
What about the over 4,500 where we have a rating of 35? What does the stretch code take it to?
Well, it's not that it takes it to that. We don't have a 2-tier in the stretch code for larger buildings. You would have to require that in your local law that you wanted to have the 2-tier. And the benefit there is that it would include the mandatory requirements that are in New York stretch. But more than likely, Margot and Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, to reach that 35, there would be probably the need to add PV to the home.
Correct.
Right.
So, and with that, with the PV, am I correct? Are they offering many rebates for those or incentive plans for that right now?
There's some federal tax credits that are going on, and incentive-wise, I'm not sure what is available on Long Island right now, and I'd have to double check to see whether one of the programs at NYSERDA applies to Long Island.
Yeah, I don't know if they're doing anything like that.
Yeah, Lauren can answer that question too, I think, because Lauren, do you want to chime in?
Currently, the incentives that are available for the rest of the state, that has run out for Long Island. But like Marilyn mentioned, there is still the tax credits that are available for solar and solar plus storage too. So those are the incentives that we have to take advantage of here on Long Island.
And the beauty is too that if you adopt New York stretch and once the new Clean Energy Communities program is launched, there would be further grant and funding opportunities available to you.
And there's also the 45L tax credit that builders receive when homes meet a certain standard. This has been going on since 2005, the initial EPAC tax credit. So that's $2,000 for the builder when the homes qualify. And the homes can only qualify when they get computed by a HERS rater through the software and they receive documentation. So stretch code is going to require that these homes get checked like that with the ERI approach. So that's an incentive for the builder. I've worked with builders over the years. One builder 3 years ago claimed about 47 homes, $2,000 per home for tax credits. So it adds up quick.
Yeah.
Matt, if I can ask you, you can roll it back down instead of the large builders, just to the individual looking to a first-time builder and as their principal location. You know, it's tough enough to find the funding to build a house and get the financing to do so, and then to hold on to it. How do we couch this to them? You know, what are the talking points to that first-time homeowner that looks at this as an additional upfront expense and can't see it amortized over the 10 years payback time frame? And then if you have to add the PVs on top of the house, it could be even more. You know, how do we incentivize this or educate them enough to say this is something that the town, the town should be doing? We're losing out here in our community specifically. We're losing a lot of first-time home buyers or builders or houses that are trying to stay in our community. So I want to keep things affordable for them, and I don't want them. I understand the environmental side of it needed, but if we have a couple of things in place, how can we keep these houses affordable for the people that the 20 and 30-year-olds that want to stay out here, which we need? Right.
Well, that's one of the nice things as a HERS rater. We can sit down with a client and they can talk about, do we build this house with 2x4s, 2x6? Do we do 16 on center, 24 inches on center? Do we look at ICFs, insulated concrete forms? All these options can be looked at to build the envelope of the house. And then you can look at the systems that go into the house and do all these price comparisons And at the end of the day, you can work with a client and say, this is how much the house will cost to build. Here's what your expected energy costs will be year in and year out if you choose this system. And then you can look at other systems, and all that stuff can be calculated, and then they can choose a price point that they're comfortable with.
And one of the things that we're showing too, it's unfortunately, I don't have the data specific to Long Island, but in other areas, what we're seeing is, for instance, if they choose a well-insulated building, well-insulated home, and they decide to put in a heat pump over what might normally be installed, like what might normally be installed for their heating and cooling, they will see cash flows, positive cash flows from year 2 on, so that the payback for installing the heat pumps is around 5 years. But they're also going to be accruing these additional savings over and over again, year after year. So there's definitely opportunity, especially if you're talking about a first-time buyer who might be staying in their home for 10 to 20 years, hopefully, that they're going to be seeing that advantage going forward, that savings going forward. And likewise with the PV, as electricity costs go up, they have the PV to keep them, keep those costs down, affect those.
Right. And for builders also, we see time and again, builders have embraced high performance, net zero, energy efficiency, and use that as really a selling point for the quality of their construction and how the homes are going to perform. So, it's not just a matter of, oh, this home might cost me $2,500 more to build. It's also selling the value that's included in that home.
Well, I think that's what I'm trying to get to, Margot. It's how do you sell that value? How do you educate them instead of individuals looking to invest that money in their lives someplace else?
Sure. And that's something that we're working on too, as far as marketing materials and the like. I mean, it's definitely, you're right, it's an educational thing, not issue, not just for the builders to build this way, but also to get the clients to want them to build that way. And we recognize that can be a concern, but I feel like we have some of the details that are needed. We've got fact sheets about the energy and non-energy benefits. We have other things that, frequently asked questions, and we're always open to hear other issues that you would like us to address and ways that we might be able to help you do that.
Yeah, I think that was what Cray was trying to say earlier today, was that instead of just saying that there's money up front that you're going to spend, there is value for the lifetime or the time that you're at least spending in your home. If I'm not sure what the numbers are anymore for the average length of how long you own a home. It's usually between 7 and 10 years. I think it's still somewhere around that. So what is the benefit of the 7 to 10 years, and what is the benefit when you go to sell the house? And I don't think that we do those numbers up front. And, you've alluded to it in some of your presentation, but I think that's part of the educational process. And certainly the Energy Sustainability Committee has been talking about that and wanting to do that, even to the point where Cray was saying, let's get to net zero faster than slower. So that, because that's the direction we need to be going.
Right.
Your documents say that on average, the savings in energy bills will be about 19.7%. If I read it correctly, that's a pretty good sales point.
That is a pretty good sales point. That's showing what the efficiency or the savings in energy cost is from the New York State Code. That is correct. And that's an average across the entire state. It's slightly less in your climate zone and in Long Island, but it's still greater than 10 years, greater than 10%. So you definitely have a selling point there for sure. And the other
question for the team on the presentation. I want to thank you, Marilyn, Margot, and Matt, for taking the time to present this to us. We have some more discussion and work to do on a potential code prior to adoption. And I think This points out just another way that we can work towards reaching our ultimate goal in a necessary way. We're not going to be able to do it with just one approach, with just solar or offshore wind or EV vehicles. It's got to be a really comprehensive approach moving forward, and this is a critical part of that. A lot of energy gets used by homes. In fact, I think they're the single largest consumers of energy here within the town. So we appreciate your time. And
absolutely. And if any questions, if you want them, run them through Lauren or reach out to us directly, we'd be happy to help out. And especially with any sort of marketing ideas, we'll work on that as well to come up with better ammunition, if you will, for you all.
All right,
Great.
thanks so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next up, we have our East Hampton Town Chief of Police, Mike Sirlo. Michael, happy to have you here. There's a proposed donation to the East Hampton Town Police Department from an anonymous donor. And we've asked the chief to be with us today to just describe what that donation entails and what the proposal is. Welcome, Chief.
Good afternoon. How's it going? Good. So basically, we've had some ongoing discussions about improving our training capabilities and advancing the technology of the type of hands-on training we were able to give not only our own officers, but working with the other East End police departments in trying to create more live action, interactive scenarios for our officers to work through. Our training schedule has been quite challenging in dealing with the Suffolk County Police Department, who oversees all training for the county, as they've run into numerous budget cuts and challenges in staffing their in-service academy and getting enough seats in classes for the East End agencies and finding time and available classes to get our officers through more training. In those discussions for the past 2 or 3 years, we've been looking into a virtual training system, which in the past had been referred to, and many people have heard it referred to as a FATS machine, a firearms training simulator. The technology has advanced rapidly in the past 6 or 7 years. Even though it's expensive, it's still much more reasonable than it used to be. And it also provides quite a bit more in-depth scenarios and live action training for our officers to be able to utilize in our building on a regular basis without having to go up to Suffolk County or spend full days off the road. This is a large screen system with interactive basically simunition that sets up for our weapons, where it interacts with our tasers, our mace, and our firearms with a simulator with air, pressure, and recoil. Very, very live action and very safe. And the scenarios are very modern and real world scenarios with de-escalation, with using least amount of force possible, with many customizable situations where how the officer responds to the individual in the training scenario, it can go, one of 15, 20 different ways based on how the officer responds and interacts. It's a high-tech, real-life simulator trainer. It will give our not only our police department, but we'd also work with the other East End departments, the ability to come in off the road for an hour or so and work with a training officer and work through some very realistic use of force or de-escalation scenarios that we encounter on a regular basis, and give our officers a lot more hands-on interaction and prepare them for the types of situations which can escalate and become dangerous and result in use of force or use of any of our weapons. It's high tech. It's a really incredible. I sat through the presentation and demonstration that the representative came out and gave us. And to be honest with you, I was blown away. I feel in today's current climate, with what we are looking to do to ensure that our officers have the best available training and understand de-escalation and use of force and handling people who may be in a mental health crisis or maybe who's suffering through, some sort of a mental health issue or dealing with impairment. It really helps our officers understand what the real life situation looks like. There's the ability to videotape this so they can watch and critique their own actions afterwards. And it really, I'm excited about the opportunity to try to have this here at our headquarters and implement it on a regular basis. Basically, we have several people in the community who have approached us in the past about trying to support our budget needs, our training needs, and as in the past with the item that we received, the MedCat emergency vehicle that we received, they had come forward to us and said, what do you need that's not in your regular budget? What can help not just you, but the East End, and what can help advance you in your professionalism and your service to the community that you feel might be a little out of your reach in your regular operating budget. And this is an item that our training staff and our senior staff thought, given the current climate and the challenges we face in training and the changes in use of force, we felt that this would be probably the best item we could get for our department at this time. Not only will our officers benefit from this, but we feel members of the community will benefit from it as we plan on using this, taking it mobile and maybe setting it up in the school and running through some of the kids in the driver's ed classes through scenarios about traffic stops, potentially bringing in another round of Citizens Police Academy members and be able to run them through all of our scenarios once they have some training, and being able to utilize this as some demonstrations to the public and to members of the community who have concerns about our training and how we interact with people in these type of situations. We feel it's a phenomenal tool. We're very thankful that the donor was willing to stay anonymous and put this money up for this. And as has happened in the past with any of these anonymous donations, they've requested to remain anonymous. They seek no recognition or acknowledgement or anything in return for this. They simply want to help out local law enforcement in the community. And, obviously I'm able to release that information in confidence to the board members and to the Board of Ethics should need be. And we're really excited about this opportunity. And, I know most of the board members have expressed their support and having reviewed the material online. And, at this point, if there's any specific questions about how we intend to use it or the process, I just open it up to the board for comment.
Any questions for the chief or comment?
I just have two quick ones for you, Chief.
Sure.
I went over the machinery there you're looking at right now, or the programming, and it seems like it's a wonderful science-based, technology that, uses training scenarios, active shooter, but even more importantly, uses de-escalation and judgmental use of force.
Absolutely.
Which I think is extremely important right now in our climate right now. Judgmental use of force is one of the keys I know that you train for, and to have another system like that, I think is very important to get our peace officers prepared for any type of situation. It does look like there's a size requirement to this. Does your facility right now, the police headquarters, have the size or the location for this, or is there something that we would need to build eventually to incorporate this in?
No. There's different scales of the screen that are available, and the one that we're looking at to use fits with. It's the one they brought out and did a demonstration with us in our upstairs training room. It takes up about a third of the wall up there, and there's plenty of space for a reactionary gap and to set up the realistic scenario and have the everything to scale in our upstairs training room here at police headquarters. I wish I had taken a quick video of it at the time when they were here. We just had a lot going on, and with social distancing and spacing, I didn't think to grab it, but there's plenty of space. An oversized classroom can facilitate this, so we would be able to take it to the school. We have plenty of space. We have everything we need here to run this out of our training center. So that's not an issue. And I appreciate your support and in recognizing how important this is we do defensive tactics, we do firearms training. I've had some conversations with some of the board members and people who are looking to get onto the police relations community committee as we move forward. And a lot of questions have come up about de-escalation and advancing our training. And it's very challenging to find the right level of coursework to put officers through extensive training when we have to send them up to Brentwood to go to the Suffolk Police Academy or into Albany. To have something like this here in our police headquarters where multiple times per year officers can come in and not only run through the training in an hour or so, but observe some of their fellow officers go through the training and then be able to follow up and watch the recorded version of how they handled the situation and critique it and review it with their training officers is, I think it's going to be a tremendous boost and benefit to us.
Thank you.
I'd like to just say that I'm supportive of the donation, and I think we should let folks know that the donation is about $53,000. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
Will there be other software that you'll need to purchase as time goes on? Or
As of now, everything is included with a 1-year warranty and some basic upgrades that would be included. There would be in the area of a $4,000 to $5,000 a year maintenance agreement cost. We have a lot of access to online materials, and a lot of the training scenarios are updated regularly by the company themselves. So we kind of have to subscribe to their software system to be able to maintain the updates and have things, upgraded as we move along. It's in the area of $4,000 to $5,000 a year. It's a little tight in our budget right now. We're also looking to see if maybe with this donation, we might get 4 or 5 years of that covered ahead of time. If we can work something out with the company and get that all set up ahead of time, so that we don't have to absorb that right away as an impact into the budget. But, we feel like if you look at the time and money we spend sending officers back and forth to training at the academy and the overtime that might be involved and the staffing issues, that to have this here, it's going to offset itself and be well worthwhile.
Is this something that we could engage in shared services with some of the other local departments?
Yes, of course.
For the training?
Yes, of
that
course.
Could maybe help offset some of the costs to our department?
Yep. We would definitely look at it.
I just wanted to add a comment or two, if I may. I watched the program and researched it as well, and was initially reacting with a little caution because it is weapons training. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate Chief Sarlo's accessibility on this issue, because I reached out to him right away and wanted to have a little bit of a discussion on de-escalation tactics, which are becoming much more important in community policing. And actually, some of us may have read a recent article in Newsday about an officer who was commended for dealing with a situation with a mentally disturbed individual and de-escalating a situation that could have become really pretty challenging and dangerous. And he attributed his ability to do that to some training they had received called crisis intervention training or crisis intervention team. And I was very grateful to be able to talk to you, Mike, about that, and to know that you're on your game and focused on it. And this is something that I'm really pleased about the department, is the perspective and the seriousness with which Mike Sarlo values community policing and is aware of the latest developments and on board with encouraging them. And I know that we've all read the governor's recommendations for the collaborative process to re-envision the police department. And it's from what I can see and the conversations I've had with Mike, this is not something new to East Hampton Town Police. We've got very progressive leadership and very open leadership. So I'm really appreciative of that, and I do support the donation.
Thanks for those comments, Jeff. I couldn't agree with them more in terms of how East Hampton Police Department's community policing has has been really a hallmark of the department. And, the town board has been very supportive of police department training requests. And I think in this particular case, this equipment should help police officers quickly and accurately identify, variety of situations and be able to have the correct response. I think that's, some of the most important tools that a police officer can achieve. We see that many of the really terrible outcomes that have been publicized, several of them really were the fact that the situation may have been misdiagnosed, if you will, and the correct response. There could have been avoidance or de-escalation, and so I think this certainly adds another tool in training, and will aid the department and save time really in the training activities. I think the fact that officers don't have to take as much time off and travel means that they have more time on the road and serving the community, and still have the access to the enhanced training that I think everybody agrees is valuable, especially now. So are there any other questions or comments for the chief at this point?
No, I just want to say that I am in support of the donation, and I think that the donation, this one and past donations, is really a credit to our chief of police, and I thank him for all he's done. And he's a good leader, and I appreciate his leadership. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. So we'll look forward to a resolution on Thursday night.
Great. Thank you very much, Will. Just to pass along, our training officers and our senior staff are very excited about this, and they're very appreciative of the board's support in this. This is something, it's kind of a shiny new toy, but it's also, as we move into modern training and we look at addressing a lot of the issues and concerns that have come up through the police reform initiative, it's a gift that we just, are extremely thankful for, and know that it's going to do us a tremendous amount of good. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chief. Next up on our agenda, we have community block grant recommendations, and we have Tom Rule, our Director of Housing and Community Development, to run through those recommendations with us. Good afternoon, Tom.
Good afternoon. As the board's aware, you had a hearing, albeit a virtual and paper hearing, to deal with the community development block grant. And now I'm making my recommendations to the board about what's been requested and what my suggestions for the board to fund. Under the public service category, Catholic Charities requested $5,000. Maureen's Haven requested $5,000. Maureen's Haven is for their homeless program, and Catholic Charities is for their substance abuse program they run. That's done in, it's bilingual, English, Spanish. They've requested $5,000 each. I'm suggesting that we fund them at $5,000 each. Windmill One has requested $68,250 as part two of the cabinets. I am suggesting $46,185, which with last year's $45,000 commitment will make a total funding over the 2-year package, and we have not gotten the 2020 money yet. So, but when we get that, and with my recommendation, will be a total of $91,185 dedicated toward kitchen cabinet tops. For whalebone housing, I'm suggesting $31,315 of new money, and the application of some old money we have left over from previous whalebone projects, being cabinets at whalebone and some concrete work that totals $88,685. So total, they'll get their request, some of it from new money and some of it from leftover old money. The Housing Authority has requested for solar panels for the Avalon apartments. I've talked to our representatives at the county. They've spoken to HUD. This is an eligible cost because they're an affordable housing project. The Housing Authority is asking for $30,000. They're going to cost share the rest of it because there's no expectation this is going to completely cover the cost of solar panels in the Avalon apartments. It's something the Housing Authority wants to do down the road. This is the first one. This building is, they want to go small. This is the smallest of their holdings to try to develop solar panels and thus reducing their cost of operation. So I'm recommending $30,000 there. The retreat has requested $20,000 for security cameras, and I'm recommending $7,500 from this year's money, $10,000 from the 2020 money, because thanks to a generous benefactor, the flooring, which the board had approved last year, the flooring has actually been completed using other money. So when we get this money, we will not be able to do the project we anticipated because it's already been done. So I'm adding that money to $7,500 from this year, plus $2,499.50 that's left over from the parking lot. We put in a new parking lot. The town put in a new parking lot over at the retreat. And there was some money left over at the end because we came in under what we had budgeted. If you add that together, it comes very, very close, within 50 cents of the $20,000 request for the security cameras. And that totals $125,000, which is what we're operating premise we're under, recognizing, of course, that we haven't got the 2020 money. And there is some volatility in Washington with the change of administrations. And so we haven't really gotten the 2021 money, but this is the normal process that we're following, that we follow every year. And if this is acceptable to the board, I'd like to do a resolution on this Thursday.
I just have a question.
Sure.
On the solar panels for the Avalon apartments. Is that roof a new roof? Is it ready to accept?
I have not done an evaluation myself. I asked the question of the Housing Authority, and I was given the indication that the roof is new enough to be able to handle the solar panels.
I think they have roof installation plans for those buildings. I'd have to check my notes on that. And they've discussed in their meetings the readiness to do, a solar. They're aware of making it ready to accept solar. So it's, I think they have it well in hand.
Okay, that was my only question on this.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for the retreat. So once the 2020 money comes in, we conceivably have $12,500 on hand. Could they do a phased-in approach and get access to that money when the 2020 funds are released so that they could get started on their security camera project?
Yes, and we will be buying it off of, we will probably be using one of the existing contracts that the town has, because we're going to be buying it for them. So yes, it could happen more quickly under this scenario.
Right, because I spoke to Loretta Davis, the executive director of the retreat, yesterday at length, because that grant funding that Tom referenced that they have received came from East End Cares, the Clamshell Foundation, and an anonymous donor, and they have done a complete makeover of the home. And I've been sent pictures from Melissa Berman, and it's stunning. New floors, painting, glazed the tubs. I mean, their California Closets is coming in and doing closets for them. On top of the work that we've done in the playground and the parking lot, it's really, will be a beautiful respite for those families that need, that are dealing with domestic violence and abuse. So I'm grateful that this works out, that they can get the money for those security cameras sooner, and they'll be made whole.
If they want to allow us to, the county allows us some flexibility as long as the project is exactly the same site. There is money we have and that we're intending on spending for certain security lights on the outside of the facility, in the parking lot area. We can, and I'll talk to the retreat about this, we can use that money for the cameras and then do the rest of it from the new allocation if the cameras are more important for them right now than the parking lot lights. We have that flexibility, and we'll try to work with the retreat.
That's great. Thank you. And I support your recommendation of how you've allocated the funding for the community development block grant money. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from board members? Okay, we look forward to the resolution on Thursday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Next up, we have a brief discussion about the county school bus stop arm camera program. This is a vendor who's working with the county and other municipalities throughout Long Island within the county. And in order for local school districts in East Hampton to participate, the town would have to enter into an agreement. John, you want to give us an overview on this? And
Sure. Basically, as you mentioned, this is a program that the county had enacted. They went out with an RFP for a contractor to operate the program. And the way this works, basically, previously before this, a police officer would have to witness a violation of a vehicle passing a stopped school bus. And as most of you will notice, that school buses now have an arm that swings out when the bus stops to try to further deter people from passing the bus. And this proposal is to equip those arms with a camera system that will take a picture of the vehicle and the plate. And the plan of this is now the contractor will take care of all the administration of issuing a ticket to the operator. The town will need to cooperate with the contractor in scheduling the ticket like they would for any other vehicle and traffic law ticket with the justice court for prosecution. And similarly to the way it works now, that there would be a fine that would be imposed. The bulk of it, about 90% of it, goes up to the state. Some of that comes back to the county, and 10% of that comes to the town. So that's basically how this is going to work. Any administrative costs that we might incur will be borne by the contractor, and they'll provide all of the information that's needed for prosecution. They'll put a packet together with all the photographs, and they'll supply all the software that's necessary for the prosecution of the ticket. And it sounds like a pretty good program. There's really no cost to the town other than the cost of just participation as far as scheduling these tickets on the court's calendar, which is something we would do with an ordinary ticket as well. So it should expand enforcement of this regulation much further than it's enforced now, because there's not always a police officer there to witness it. And that's kind of about it. The fines for passing a school bus are pretty significant. They start at $250 for the first offense, and if you have a third offense over a period of 3 years, they go up to $1,000 plus points on your license.
This is also required of each school district to adopt and work with the vendor to have those cameras installed on the school buses. So it required them to participate.
Yeah.
So is there a cost to the school district, or is that covered by the grant?
My understanding is that it's covered. I didn't think there was any cost to the school district. Is there?
It doesn't appear that there's any cost to the school district other than making they'll actually get the software for the cameras and the camera equipment installed. Really just cooperation in the program is really the only cost we incur. And it's not really a cost. It's just more of a, personnel time for prosecution. It seems like a pretty good opportunity for the town.
Any other questions or comments from board members on this? I think it's kind of hard to believe, honestly, that people pass school buses with the stop arm out, but apparently that happens. And I know it happens with more frequency the further west you go, but certainly it poses a very dangerous, potentially very dangerous situation for school children. So I think, and also other traffic that are expecting people to be stopped behind. So I do support this legislation. It's at no cost to the town. I think it will deter, once the word gets out that school buses are armed with these cameras and that there are automatic processing of the fines, that will have an impact, positive impact on that rather negative activity of passing stop school buses. Any other comments? If not, we'll move on to Nancy Lynn Thiel and outdoor dining legislation. We have twice before discussed this proposed legislation in work session, and Nancy Lynn's back again with some further revisions.
I have it set up in the legislative formula or structure here for your review. I have included all the information that we've discussed in the past. And I can put this into Minitrack when you're ready, unless there's any additional changes that you're looking for. It does have, as we talked, the duration of the pilot program is at the end there. I did include which of those Article 5 provisions, the special permit provisions, would be applicable to this pilot program, and I included in the packets that I sent to the board members copies of those sections and other sections in special permits, so that if there were any others you wanted me to reference, they could also be included there. Those seem to be the ones that were most appropriate. And I think I've covered all of the areas. I didn't know if there was any change or additional language you wanted in the intent. We have authorization, the limitations, the commenting or the limits on the occupancy, where the location of the outdoor space must be, the hours of use, lighting, heating, tents, and the application process, as well as revocations or suspensions. And then that's about all we have in there. I don't know if there's anything else anybody wanted or clarification you needed.
So Nancy Lynn, just as a matter of clarification, can you go through, now we have this as a section of the code, 255-538, pilot program special permit use outdoor dining, right? You've inserted it into the code, and that's followed by 40, which is the general standards for special permits.
Yes.
So can you just clarify that this pilot program will be subject to?
Yes, it's if you look under paragraph L, the additional applicable Article 5 provisions, it does list general standards as one that is, in addition to the provisions in this section, the following sections of Article 5 special permit uses shall apply to special permits issued pursuant to this section. And it does specifically name the general standards section.
Okay, so again, can you just run through the process by which an entity would take advantage of this section of the code? What would the process be? You have a restaurant, they want to move, they're entitled to 100%, say in this particular case, because they're in central business, 100% can be sited outdoors. What do they need to do?
Well, we would obviously work with the building inspector to give her a form for creating an application, but the application process is, the application is made to the building inspector, in that they would have to provide the information that she would need in order to process the application, obviously tax map number and so on and so forth, but also the proposed seating, outdoor seating, the area that the seating would be in. They would have to, they don't need to get a new survey, but they need to indicate it clearly on a survey where the area that they intend to use, and how that would be designated from another area if there are other uses on the property, or if alcohol was going to be served, so that they would comply with SLA's requirements as far as containing any alcohol service. They would have to have a seating chart if it were going to change. They would have to indicate when, if this is the seating that they plan on doing when it's a nice day out. This is the seating that they plan on using because they have an overhang, so that they're going to only put so many out when it's a not as nice a day, so on and so forth. And they could submit as many different variations of their intended use and under what circumstances, and provide those to the building inspector. The building inspector then would review the information. It would also include, obviously, any heating or lighting that they intended to use. If they intend to add any structures in order to facilitate this, that would have to also be, any applications for building permits would also have to be submitted, so that the entire proposal would be in front of the building inspector when she reviews it, with the fire marshal, when she reviews it with individuals from the planning department with regards to the lighting. And she would review it then to make sure that the proposed outdoor space is clearly depicted on a survey or a similar rendering, so that it's clearly identified, it's compliant with the provisions of this code, that there's adequate parking existing and or proposed available for this outdoor use, that all the seating plans are consistent with approved occupancy limits, indicate the required egress, are clearly marked as to under what circumstances each plan will be utilized, and then any building permits. And then she could process it in that manner to work with them for what if it needed to be revised in some manner, that they were not eligible for all that they asked for, or the like. You could work out the plan for that, and then she could issue a special permit with regards to that, and have that with the building permit. And I would anticipate that she would obviously give a copy of that to the fire marshal, so they would have that in their records with regards to their building, their business permits that they have.
And there's nothing in this legislation that would exempt or eliminate the need for any condition of a site plan to be altered or removed, correct?
It does not. The only, it would obviously, an outdoor eating area may not be on a site plan, but anything that requires, other than something, we have the specifics in here. I'm going to try to find exactly where it is.
If I give you an example, such as if there were vegetative screening that was a condition of a site plan that was placed in a certain location, the applicant wouldn't be able to just remove that in order to put in outdoor dining seating. That's just one example.
No, they would not. And if they wanted a tent up for more than a temporary basis, they would have to go to site plan. So we're not usurping the site plan process for more than just allowing some seating to be outside. We're not changing the number of or the occupancy that's been granted on the property via site plan. That's not changing. It's just how they're using that occupancy and where they're placing it.
In terms of the special permit conditions, compliance with that list of under 255-540, that's reviewed by the building inspector?
She would, as part of this, to make sure that it was in compliance. Yes, that the general standards, whomever grants a special permit under any section has to review the general standards. So the general standards, the issuing board, so that would be herself, shall specifically find and determine all of those items. And that's a compliancy, nature of use, lot area, adjacent properties. And there's some more specifics or some guidance as to adjacent properties and the like, specifically in this pilot program. but there's a general requirement that those be followed as well.
Other board members have questions or comments?
No, I read through it. I thank you for addressing all my concerns, even the ADA and their Nancy Lynn. I appreciate again, Peter and Sylvia, moving this forward, because I think, we saw during COVID, there are some benefits of outdoor dining, and again, any pilot program that we do for next calendar year will be within COVID compliance guidance from the state. But it seems like this pilot program, or what we had to do, was actually looked on favorably by not just restaurant owners, but also individuals that were going out if they did.
I just wanted to mention something. I don't know if this issue of outdoor dining is really going to be an issue right now because of what the weather is here. I had expressed some reservations about going to 100% given what's going on in COVID. And I just wanted to mention or ask the board, we're in a pretty difficult position right now with COVID. We seem to be at a turning point in the wrong direction, with the hope of some vaccines that will maybe rescue us from the whole calamity that we're in. But I'm just wondering if this moment is the right moment to enact this legislation, particularly if it's not likely to be, if outdoor dining is not likely to be a big happening thing in these months that are getting colder. I think it might be wise to just hold off on this so that we can see what's going to happen in the next 2 months. I know that we're in better shape than the nation is in general, but New York is worried, the governor is worried, and we're not immune from what's going on in the nation. So that's my only thought. I'm not sure this is the right moment for this, particularly if it's not really something that's on restaurant owners' front burner at the moment. I think I'd rather wait and see how this COVID situation resolves.
Well, I think one of the reasons that we were doing this is actually there were two. One was to see what works for the community that might actually change our code permanently. So we wanted to see if there were instances where this might play into it, and then doing it through a pilot program instead of changing our code right now, I think is the prudent way to go. And the second is that businesses would like to be able to plan. And if the business, needs to think about spring and, having to buy heaters and having to have a plan that's going to suit them for if it's, going to rain, so that they can, put in their multiple seating arrangements so that they can be approved. I think that we need to help our businesses, our local businesses, move forward. And this is going to help them understand and move forward. It's going to take them a while to, decide, do they need new chairs? Do they need new tables? What is the investment that they're going to make? And they can't do it, in March and April. It's just too late. So I think this is a program that's going to help them make some of those decisions now. And I think they need to have, and I'm ready to move this forward now so that they can have that assurance.
Yeah, and with that, Sylvia, in the same vein, is that even if we go to public hearing on this in December, based on COVID requirements of getting transcripts back, we won't even be able to approve this until January, even late January, probably at the earliest. So, right. By the time we talk February, great. I understand, Jeff, exactly where you're coming from, but it does give restaurant owners, if they want to move forward with this at a warmer time, enough time to get ready. When we put this in place back in June, I believe it was, based on COVID, there was a lot of, not misinformation, there was just information flying left and right out of Albany that we had to transcribe and get out to the business community. This is one way that we're trying to get in front of it in a system, be very transparent in doing so. And unlike other things that have been happening maybe in town this week, we're trying to get ahead of it right now.
Well, I am okay with public hearing. I think it's a good idea. Let's hear what the community has to say.
Yeah, I don't really have any concerns about, the 100% outdoors with regard to COVID. I mean, the COVID protocols and safety issues run separately from whatever our town code says. Just because the code would allow for 100% outdoors, if the situation gets to a certain point, all those restaurants are going to be closed, indoor or outdoor. We unfortunately are seeing an uptick in Suffolk County on Long Island. We have some more cases here in town, although our infection rate continues to be relatively low. It's certainly an ongoing concern on a daily basis for all of us here on the town board. We want to try to help keep the community safe. We want to keep our businesses open and operating safely, but we're rapidly reaching a point where we're going to have to step back and start shutting down and being more remote from each other, I think, unless we can effectively curb this uptick. But to Sylvia's point, David's point, it really is important for businesses to be able to plan ahead. This is one sector in our local economy that's been hit incredibly hard. We all know that the evidence supports the idea that outdoor dining is far safer than indoor dining. Many of the cases that are being recorded relate to indoor dining as a means of transmission. So, I think trying to be out ahead of this as much as possible is really important. And I look forward to hearing from the public as well. Anyone else have comments before we move on? Thank you very much, Nancy Lynn. We appreciate your efforts on our behalf with this legislation. Next
and
up.
would you like it prepared to be noticed for public hearing for this Thursday's meeting? And if so, what public hearing date would you like?
So I would like to put it on to get a public hearing and the public hearing for Thursday, to schedule a public hearing with the public hearing.
I don't know, can we get it on by the 4th? I don't know if we have enough time for that. That would mean December 18th.
Yeah. Do we have enough time for the 3rd for a public hearing or not? We do?
Sorry,
Carol
Doctor.
is saying yes.
Okay.
So if we
Looking in the wrong month, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
December 3rd. It's the 3rd or the 17th. If Carol says we can get it noticed in time for the 3rd, does the board want to move for the 3rd?
I would like to move.
Sure.
I agree.
Okay.
So,
I'm okay
thank
with
you
that.
so much, Nancy Lynn.
No problem.
And last on our agenda item, we have local food pantries and the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation Food Bank. And Kathy Burke-Gonzalez, Councilwoman, who's in charge of Human Services as liaison, is going to present. And as many in the community know, the Bon Jovis have set up this food bank at what is the clubhouse property off of Daniels Hole Road, Wainscott Northwest Road, I guess. And they've been really instrumental in helping to support our local food pantry. So Kathy, without any further ado, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. I'm just actually, give me 1 second. I'm just need to share the screen. Okay. Here we go. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so I just felt that, given that next week is Thanksgiving and the holidays are, just around the corner, that the timing was right to share with the town board and the community the extraordinary good works of our local food pantries and the impact that the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation Food Bank had on our community. So as we all know, there's a great deal of food insecurity in our community. And when the economy shut down in March, our local food pantries and food banks were facing a perfect storm. Demand was rising at an extraordinary rate as folks flooded a charitable system that was never intended to handle a nationwide crisis. On top of that, our local food pantries faced massive supply chain challenges, food shortages, and escalating food costs. And volunteers opined that they had never before witnessed such a combination of need, scarcity, and anxiety. Apologize, I'm having trouble with, okay. So on September 15th, I apologize. Okay, so in May 2020, the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation had come out here, and they were speaking to the different food pantries to see what the issues at hand were. And, you know, when they heard directly from the food pantries that they just couldn't, you know, access food, that they would drive up to Long Island Cares in Hampton Bays and the warehouse was empty. They'd go up to Hop Hog, and it was a real issue. And as we all know, we've seen the pictures of, you know, how much our community was struggling. Folks that had, you know, had been going to the food banks, had been going to the local food pantries, were here, but also we had folks that had, you know, never before, you know, accessed the food pantries because they lost their job, because so many industries shut down. They were in dire straits. So when Eddie Burke Jr. reached out to me and said, you know, John Bon Jovi and his wife Dorothea want to put a food bank at the clubhouse. You know, how do we make that happen? You know, the town board passed a resolution back in May of this year. I don't think any of us, and we, you know, passed it anonymously, I don't think any of us really realized the magnitude of what we were, you know, putting forth, right? So once they had the green light, the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation pledged to purchase $100,000 worth of food products a month in an effort to supply healthy food to 5,000 individuals each month for the 4 months that they were going to be operating. And these food products would be distributed to 8 local food pantries here on the South Fork. And in East Hampton, they included the East Hampton Food Pantry, the Montauk Food Pantry, Springs Food Pantry, and the Hamptons Church Food Pantry in Wainscott. And on September 15th, the foundation ended its successful distribution, fulfilling their pledge to support families in need during the summer months. And over that 18-week period, the John Bon Jovi Food Bank distributed 238 tons of food, averaging 25,000 pounds a week of healthy, shelf-stable foods, fruits, vegetables, and pre-made frozen meals. So this just shows the camp building at East Hampton Indoor Tennis, which, you know, the Rubenstein family provided for this effort. And what you're seeing right in front of you is it's already got labels on there for the Springs Food Pantry. And what I heard at the time from the executive directors of the food pantries is that the food was incredibly high quality. It was in the proper serving size that you would buy in a grocery store. And just anecdotally, my husband Joe volunteered at the Springs Food Pantry for the first few months of the pandemic because they needed a Spanish translator in the parking lot. And there was a discernible difference once our food pantries had received these donations, that the people were coming out with more bags than ever, and they were just elated with what they were going to be able to bring home and provide for their families. And there were a dozen of volunteers that also supported the effort. They needed a lot of muscle to move the volume of food that was going out each week. And there's a cute video on the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation website where the Alice Houseneck at the Montauk Food Pantry shared with me that they didn't have, you know, a vehicle to be able to carry, go each week to bring back all of the food that they would be distributing. And they used a school bus from the Montauk School District. So Dorothea Bon Jovi, who's the founder and program director of the John Bon Jovi Soul Kitchen, commented that we're grateful for the opportunity to meet and work with the pantries we were able to serve. Their commitment to their communities is inspiring and humbling. On our visits to these organizations, we saw volunteers packing bags during a power outage, volunteers distributing food from a tent in temperatures over 90 degrees, and churches, classrooms, and any extra space turned into food storage and distribution centers. We saw what is possible when we care for each other and are proud to be a small part of that. So that's, Dorothea's and the foundation's perspective. And I thought it would be helpful to hear from the food pantry's perspective, because at the time that they were getting these deliveries, I was hearing from the board members that they were just in awe of what they were receiving, and that they couldn't believe that not only now that, because the supply chain was interrupted, now not only were they getting all of this food to be able to provide to those of our neighbors who would otherwise go hungry, but that it was free. Like, this was a complete donation. And what Russ Calamo, vice chairperson of the East Hampton Food Pantry, shared with me is that the JBJ Soul Foundation helped East Hampton Food Pantry at a time when we were in desperate need of food. With their support, we have been able to feed over 22,000 individuals to date. We will be forever grateful to the JBJ Soul Foundation for the generosity and compassion they showed our community during a very difficult time. And, Bon Jovis were on site, they were, rolled their sleeves up too, working in the food bank. And here, the operations manager of the East Hampton Food Pantry, Mona Forbel, posed with John Bon Jovi. And East Hampton Food Pantry also shared with me some of their numbers. And the first column is the total number of community members they served in 2019. And for instance, if you look at the month of May, when this program, the tie-in came with the John Bon Jovi Soul Foundation. In 2019, the East Hampton Food Pantry had served 1,265 community members. And in May of 2020, they served over 3,369 community members, an increase of over 2,100 members. I mean, and you have to remember that, these folks that were, at the food pantries that were distributing the food, they had no idea week to week how many people were going to show up. But, their shelves were full because of the generous donation of the Bon Jovis. The Montauk Food Pantry wanted to share with the community, this from Alice Houseneck, the director. The Montauk Food Pantry benefited tremendously from the weekly allotment of food provided by the John Bon Jovi Food Bank. COVID presented challenges for all of us and all pantries with regard to obtaining enough food to distribute to our growing number of recipients. The Long Island Food Bank and grocery stores that we previously relied upon were unable to fulfill our orders due to high demand. JBJ arrived just in time. When their representative first visited our site, I was asked to supply a list of items that were needed most. At that time, we could not obtain enough rice, milk, oatmeal, canned goods, fruit, or bread. From that point on, we were issued weekly pallets of these nourishing staples free of charge. One of our volunteers who cared for children of service workers this summer reported that these youngsters only had chips for lunch until our pantry supplied the fresh bread, butter, and fruit that was granted by JBJ. She spoke of the sheer delight the children expressed as they enjoyed the new nutritious menu compared to what their parents had been able to offer before. I mean, I read that and I tear up because it's heartbreaking that kids in our community could be going hungry. Alice went on to say that the Montauk Food Pantry is ever grateful for the generosity and compassion offered by the Bon Jovis during this critical healthcare crisis. The Springs Food Pantry also was tremendously grateful, and Holly Wheaton, chairperson, Pamela Bickett, moderator, and Ann McCann, vice moderator, offered these words. By late March, even though we were receiving monetary donations to help with the increasing demand and the number of recipients needing our assistance, we found our local purveyors were unable to provide us with the non-perishable staples that we routinely purchased. Cereal, rice, beans, tuna, pasta, and even soups were unavailable. We checked with other purveyors, but ran into the same brick wall. The system for delivering state and federally funded foods to our local food bank had also been disrupted, with almost nothing available. We looked at our emptying shelves with real fear. We even went as far as Hampton Bays to buy products at supermarkets, paying full retail cost. We began ordering 50-pound bags of rice that we could break down into 1-pound units. Then we were contacted by the JBJ Soul Kitchen Foundation. The operations manager, Alvin, listened to our needs. John and Dorothea visited our pantry. Within 2 weeks, they had set up the JBJ Soul Kitchen Food Bank at the clubhouse, providing even more than we asked for. They literally saved us and saved our recipients from hunger. Because of them, we were able to provide 3 meals a day for 5 days, 15 meals to every family member. It was a miracle. Holly went on to say, our weekly pickup from the John Bon Jovi Food Bank. By the way, John and Dorothea gave Springs Food Bank the refrigerator combo freezer shown in the photo on their last day at the clubhouse. And when Holly sent me this photo, I couldn't believe it. I counted 8 pallets of food, and I wrote back to her and I'm like, are you sure this is 1 week? And she said, absolutely. So, and then the Springs Food Pantry shared with us a comparison from February to October, looking at 2019 to 2020, and the green bars are the 2019 recipients, and the orange demonstrates the number. And as you can see, there's no end in sight. April was they had the most demand, where they served over 2,853 people. And we see that in October, that number was exceeded, over 2,900 recipients. So it's going to be a long winter. Yeah. And then the Hampton Church Food Pantry, which is located in Wainscott on Industrial Road, Dorothy Cronley and Margaret Kelly shared this. From the moment we got the notice about the shutdown, our first question was, how will we keep our food pantry up and running with limited funds and volunteers? We already had a vision for expanding the pantry, but wondered if now should be the time. So we prayed. Enter JBJ Food Bank, which was right around the corner from our church. When our men came back with the very first delivery, we were so blessed and grateful. Upon hearing that we could pick food up each week, we immediately notified our clients that they could come more often. Dorothy and Margaret went on to say, volunteers began building shelves in an office that was no longer in use. The pantry grew to more than twice the size. We now had the space and the food to fill it. Such a big thank you to JBJ Food Bank. We never would have been able to fill our shelves without you. The Lord answered our prayers exceedingly and abundantly. And picture to the right is Wes Dempsey, John Bon Jovi, Gerard Pico, and Bo Kelly. So, as we all know, the COVID-19 crisis has dealt a damaging blow to the economic health for many members of our community. And with no immediate end in sight, the demand at our local food pantries is expected to remain at elevated levels for the foreseeable future. We see that just in the bar graph that from the Springs Food Pantry shared with us. As the holidays approach, please consider making a charitable donation to support those in our community who might otherwise go hungry. And here is the food pantries and their websites. We are putting this PowerPoint presentation on the Human Services website with links to all 4 food pantries. And I would just like to, take this time to say, how grateful and how much gratitude we have for the boards of our local food pantries for their unwavering commitment to their neighbors, the invaluable volunteers who always show up ready to lend a helping hand, to Dorothy and John Bon Jovi for so generously and compassionately supporting our neighbors who are struggling and bringing this to fruition in record time, just when we needed it most. To Holly and Scott Rubenstein for always putting community first and opening up the clubhouse for this critical work. And to those community members and local businesses for their financial support. And I just hope, I know that there are folks out there that are struggling, but if you have the means, please, our food pantries and your neighbors could really use the support.
Thank you, Kathy. I think that just points out, what exactly can be done when we do care about each other, and to just take a moment and recognize these two individuals, John Bon Jovi and Dorothea, for their efforts on behalf of members of our community. They're part of our community, and it's just so wonderful when you see folks step up who have the ability to make a big difference, do so. And so we're really grateful for your efforts and the efforts of all of our volunteers throughout the town who've risen to the cause in these dire times, to see that everybody has a good meal to eat, that they have what they need. And, this isn't over yet. We're going to need to continue as we have, and there are going to be more and more demands, I think, in the coming winter months. Hopefully we don't go back into another lockdown, but if we do, we will still need to address those who are isolated and in need. So thank you for that presentation, Kathy. And again, thanks to everyone who's been so generous with their time and with their money. That brings us up to liaison reports. Kathy, do you have a liaison report for us?
Yeah, I do. So Human Services right now are getting ready to begin preparing Thanksgiving dinner. That will be included in the deliveries next week to those seniors in our community that are getting the 5 frozen meals. If anyone is in need and wants to be, on the list, and please contact Human Services at 631-329-6939. East Hampton Town will be taking part in a 2020 East End Youth Leadership Summit. It's going to be held tomorrow. And the focus is going to be on the adolescent's experience with anxiety in today's world. And the town will be offering financial support for the program, and I'll have a resolution for that on Thursday. I know I mentioned last week that the highway department was bringing Rosemar in to pave Springs Fireplace Road from Woodbine up to the Old Barnes Deli. Originally, that was supposed to take place last week, but Steve Lynch tells me now it's scheduled for tomorrow, Wednesday, all day, and possibly into Thursday. Spring CAC has been rescheduled. It normally meets on the 3rd Tuesday, but there was a conflict, and we're going to be meeting next Tuesday, November 24th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And then I just wanted to, there was a very powerful graphic that was making the rounds on social media. I don't know if all of you saw it, but it basically said in August, 55 people attended a wedding in Maine. 1 guest had COVID. The virus spread to 176 other people. 7 people died. None of them had attended the wedding. Please, everyone, stay safe. As I always tell my kids, make smart choices. COVID spreads easily. Avoid groups. Stay 6 feet apart. And please, by all means, wear a mask. And that's what I have for today.
Thank you, Kathy. David?
Yes, thank you. Multiple things here. The Nature Preserve Committee did meet last week. They did discuss what is known as the Maloney property off of Springs Fireplace Road and the management plan. I believe we actually just received that management plan from the chairman Rick Whalen for our interpretation and review and to go out to a public hearing on it. Again, if you remember, that is the property that is conjoined by the nature preserve. Sorry, the Nature Conservancy has property nearby, and also there's a very large stance of invasive bamboo on the property that we're going to be looking to take action to try to eradicate. That would be coming forward. There was also discussion there about a request and potentially working in conjunction with the trustees for different placement of kayak racks that the trustees have in that area of Louse Point. The kayak racks were removed based on the dredging that happened in that area. So we're going to continue that discussion, potentially see if they want to bring to the town board for our review. We discussed the management plan for the Fresh Pond grasslands at the old Bistrian property on Fresh Pond Road. That property is open space and also it was purchased for recreation. With our land stewards, the land stewards have been busy. They've been sending up violation letters for minor encroachments in the township, clearing tree falls in the trails, and also cutting southern pine beetles on town properties. They continue private property inspections. If anyone needs private property inspections, please contact our Department of Land Management at 324-4141. Also, the Buckskull Meadow Trail was brush hog cut and flagged also for future use. They also did another portion of the Montauk Path, excuse me. Segment was rerouted off of private property in the area of Amagansett near Fresh Pond at the Devon Nature Preserve location. So for our trail users, you'll see a slight reroute of that to get it off of private property. They also did mowing of the Buckskull Meadow, the Olson Preserve, and the Healy McAdoo fields were all mowed by our land stewards recently then too. Last week, the Amagansett Citizens Advisory Committee did meet. They continued their discussion of the Amagansett mail delivery. They're going to continue moving forward, and actually members of the CAC did pledge money to fund an outreach moving forward. There were nominations for elections also, which would be for next month. And more significantly, the chairman brought in attorney Joe Prokop, who discussed incorporations of villages with the committee and what are the processes to do so moving forward if there was any intention to move forward. He also went through a lot of the benefits and major drawbacks of any village incorporation, which there are both, including how do CPF funds get distributed, and corporation as far as also for uses of the beach and litigation, cost of litigation, who would the incorporation actually end up taking that over, and that is true. So that was discussed by the ACAC members. The Fisheries Advisory Committee also met. There was the members that were there discussed the scallop harvest season for 2021, which members were saying is pretty dismal. I'll probably look forward to having barley done from our aquaculture department potentially in December to discuss the season overall in the year. But they're looking at, again, requesting a potential declaration of a failure of commerce of the Peconic Bay scallop fishery again. I know the state and the federal state requested of the federal government recently, and we're going to be looking to that again. They'll seek requests from, again, the state and federal levels for fisheries assistances. This might actually potentially offer small business loans for specific individuals that had losses in that specific fishery. They continued discussion of information for specific FOIL requests for coming back from a couple of decades ago from the fisheries license reform. They're going to look into that and continue moving that forward. And there was a discussion of fixed gear interactions with potential survey ships from Orsted and about how claims are being handled currently. And our fisheries representative is going to forward me some more information to look into. More specifically, black sea bass was a discussion there. And the Fisheries Advisory Committee was considering the Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Council and the Mid-Atlantic States Fisheries Draft Amendment for Black Sea Bass Commercial State Allocation Amendment. the FAC stated it's hard to endorse an expansion of any particular plan option when there's considerable concern about the way the historical allocations were made in New York State and other states. The FAC would prefer to have this information before commenting further. But again, the new proposals are intriguing. However, the dynamic allocation, particularly based on the regional stock distribution and particularly based on historical allocation, may eventually rise to the top as an idea worth considering. But we're looking for some more information and hope that as the biomass moves northward, the plan would incorporate East Hampton fishermen, would maintain, if not expand, the fishery for our local waters, not just our local waters, but our local fishery industry. Moving forward, we also received something from Atlantic States Marine Fishery Council, which are seeking proposals for regional pilot projects in support of sustainable aquaculture, which the proposals are due January 15th. They're looking for sustainable aquatic farming techniques and regional business practices to grow the U.S. domestic seafood population. The geographic scope of the proposed projects in the U.S. is from the East Coast, from Maine to Florida, and they're putting out about $675,000. And they have multiple examples of pilot programs in which we can also look into potentially assisting maybe our Peconic-based scallop industry that has been so devastated the last couple of years. So I'm going to continue looking forward into that and potentially bring something for discussion for the board. I miss here. I had a meeting with senior chief, sorry, Marine Chief, what is it? Ed Michaels, excuse me, Harbor Master, and others, and Dave Brown about discussing about marine refueling. I know we discussed this almost about a year and a half back. It was discussed 10 years ago. We're going to look forward to bringing in some potential recommendations and draft legislation for commercial marine refueling that we're seeing happening on some of the town docks. So please be looking forward to that in the new year. We'll get to that, but hopefully before the new season. I recently just sent over to the town board the latest draft of the seaplane legislation that we've been discussing for a while, about over a year. Please, town board members can look into that legislation. It's the same draft that the trustees looked at in October, and we're in favor of. And I'd like to try to move that forward to a public hearing as soon as possible, potentially maybe our second meeting in December. I wanted to also just make everyone re-aware. I know Sylvia would do so at the CAC Lowenstein Pipe. That project will be moving forward the work week after Thanksgiving. So you'll see construction happening in that area of Montauk, the seaside area. And lastly, also part of another project that the supervisor and the board member supported was a project that was on Bay Street. And this is a project that came through the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee. I'm just going to quickly screen share a couple photos here. This is the project that's happening on Bay Street currently. This was a couple of weeks ago. And you'll see they're installing permeable pavers here for the first time in the township right now, I'm aware of. That just assists with road runoff, and it directs road runoff into specific cisterns before it hits the headwaters there. So I think the Water Quality Technical Advisory Committee, also Mayor Mulcahy and the town board for supporting this project. And hopefully we can see this supported in multiple other different locations in the township as we move forward. And that is my liaison report for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sylvia?
Sure. The Energy Sustainability Committee met yesterday. The Parks Department solar roof project and the battery storage, all the contracts have been signed. So we're hoping that gets started very soon. Electrify America and Tesla has the 12 EV stations in Montauk that has passed PSEG inspections. They are going to install meters, and then it will be up and running and active for use by electric vehicles. The group is looking at the climate action plan, which needs to be updated. This is a very active group, as you can tell by having them call in during and talking about the presentation that we had today. Members are going to be working on different sections and advise about updating the climate action plan with our natural resources department. They'll be working together. Aubrey Peterson was also on the call. He is a member, and he brought with him one of the students from his high school environmental club. And they are interested in working on dark sky lighting legislation, updating that if it needs it, and LED lights that would be sort of a simple solution for a lot of people to reduce their electric use. We had a presentation by Gordian Rock about the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, known as CLCPA, which passed last year by the State Assembly and Senate and signed into law by the governor. The targets of the plan, the main target is to be carbon neutral by 2050 and 100% zero carbon for electricity by 2040. We heard about some of that actually today in the NYSERDA presentation on the stretch building code. Included in the CLCPA are provisions for what they consider a just transition for the workforce, which means part of this in the law itself are jobs in a new energy sector of our economy and training people for that job performance. The plan calls for a diverse mix of offshore wind, along with land-based wind, solar, and hydroelectric power. And as we talked about what needs to be done locally, one of the things that Gordian brought up was that we need speed and we need scale. And in speed, we need to if we're ever going to get to our goals, we need to be able to do it now and quickly. Although voluntary action has helped, the data tells us that goals will not be reached through this method. The town needs more aggressive policies, codes, and laws to help avert a climate disaster. And I just want to point out that the latest hurricane that hit Central America yesterday became a Cat 5 storm in a matter of a few short days in cooling waters in the Caribbean. It is the latest evidence of a climate emergency. Our presentation was very informative by Gordian and educational as well. And we're hoping to have it shown to the town board and in that way through to citizens of the community. We think this is a good education for people to understand what is needed in order to reverse some of the things that are happening on our planet right now. Also important is in the discussion was the need for local education, which we just talked about. And we need to continue to look at policies and actions that we can actually do at the local level. I want to also say that the business recovery group has not met for the last 2 weeks. One was because we had taken a week off, but we didn't realize when we took the week off that Veterans Day was the week we would have been meeting again. So we will be meeting and discussing the outdoor dining legislation and some of the new things that we're hearing about the upticks in COVID-19. And
so can I ask a question, Sylvia? If they're only going to be reviewing it tomorrow, do we want to hold off noticing it in case they've got comments?
I really think that I'm going to ask that their comments be brought forward at the public hearing. I think it's, as we discussed earlier, I think that this needs to be done now. Otherwise, I think having a public hearing just before Christmas is not going to be a true measure of the public. So I would prefer to have it earlier in December and they can write their comments and we can adjust if there are things that need to be adjusted, we can do it then as well.
But then we need a second public hearing.
Depends on what is said. I mean, if it's significant in any of its changes. I mean, some of the things that were brought up in our, last discussion with them, where I think Paul Monty was on the Zoom with us. This isn't going to be available to every single restaurant because they don't all have the outdoor space to move into. Mm-hmm. So, and we cannot, with this legislation, use the sidewalks that are part of the state right of way. So this is really a pilot program that's not going to have a huge calling for a lot of our restaurants, which is unfortunate, but those that can use it, I think it's needed. And so there are some limitations here. I mean, it's self-limiting. The pilot program, that we're looking at is self-limiting. So I know that the Business Recovery Group would like to be able to use the right-of-way, the sidewalks in Montauk, but that isn't something that we can actually move forward with. Mm-hmm. So, and for the reasons that Nancy Lynn gave us actually the last time that we, had an update on this.
So restaurants that could use it they haven't reviewed it yet. I mean, we haven't got input before we go to public hearing.
So and it's been at the Business Recovery, and certainly people have passed it around. Okay. Whoever has it has been able to pass it around, and they were aware, and they've been sent this version just now, so they'll get it today, and we'll discuss it tomorrow.
Well, I would hope if they had major changes, it would.
I will bring that.
We would hold off noticing it for public hearing to incorporate them.
I agree.
Because it would save time in the long run.
Yeah, they're just, so some of the things that they wanted, I just don't think are available, like the sidewalk dining. Mm-hmm. One of the other things they wanted was string lights to also be part of their ability to do this. But, we'd have to change our code. And so we're not trying to change our code. We're just trying to accommodate. And, so we'll move forward with what we have, I think, and I think that they'll agree. I don't know, but we'll find out tomorrow. And
Got it.
I think it's important to state why, we can't include the outdoor dining on the sidewalks in Montauk, and it's state right of way. Yeah. The state has jurisdiction over that area. They have their own process and for that, which they've suspended for COVID, but there is the need of individuals basically leasing. There's a lease program, and it's rather convoluted and time-consuming after to get those permissions, but that's not within our purview. Thank you, Sylvia. Jeff? Sure.
Well, as we briefly discussed, I met with the Housing Authority, and one of the issues that they were dealing with was the request for funding for solar on some of their buildings, and that occupied a lot of the discussion, as well as some of the ordinary financial review that they're involved with, and they're hoping to be able to start in a small way to install some solar and get going on some of their buildings. The Airport Management Advisory Committee met, and it's a lively meeting for sure. There was actually some interest in looking into the Superfund conclusions that the DEC issued. I've provided them with a map, and there's some follow-up they want to do. They want to read the report, which is a public record via the DEC, so we're going to provide that to them to take a look at. We watched a short film, actually, or video presentation that Steve Tuma, who's the fixed base operator in the airport, put together, just sort of explaining the different methods to complain about aircraft noise, and it sort of very quickly took the members of the board through the various systems on which residents and non-residents can submit airport noise complaints. It was, somewhat informative, and I think it was a little bit helpful. It did generate some response from some of the non-residents who attend our meetings, who are continuing to be plagued by airport noise, who indicated that they hoped that the discussion wasn't going to lead into an attempt to sort of sort out complaints that were valid versus invalid, depending on the eye of the beholder. And we got some rather strong commentary from residents outside the town that despite the difficulties in reporting airport noise, and there are some technical difficulties about identifying which aircraft is producing the noise, the systems don't always, sometimes there are choices presented in the systems, and the systems don't always precisely accurately identify the aircraft. They wanted to make it very clear that increasingly the noise that they're experiencing has a really serious and actually, quite a devastating impact on their quality of life. And they have promised to not only attend airport management advisory committees, but to participate in any community review of the airport and its future or alternatives. And it's something that we're getting used to hearing at the Airport Management Advisory Committee. It's something that happens really every time we meet. And there are, I'm also involved in discussions with our attorneys and doing some planning work leading up to a process for public participation on the future of the airport, which I really can't discuss in detail, but I wanted the folks at home to know that that's occupying quite a bit of time. On a more prosaic level, one of the members of the board, Ken Furing, who is well known to the board and is involved in the East Hampton Aviation Association, asked for permission to post some small posters, regular paper size posters that have a QR code on them. It's an outreach that they do for a program called Young Eagles, which is intended to encourage young people to get interested in aviation, maybe learn how to fly. And I passed around that request. They want to post several posters, these small size posters with the QR code, the quick response code that probably your kids know better than many of us know. That's that new technology where you hold your cell phone up and it immediately gets you onto a website. And so I'm waiting to hear back from the town board on whether or not that would be okay. The signs would be posted outside the terminal building.
Jeff, I know you sent that around. I think that's just at the discretion of the department head. I don't think that that's a town board decision whether 8.5 by 11 flyers go up at the East Hampton terminal. I mean, well, if that was the case and we had to weigh in on every flyer that got posted in one of at Human Services, I would spend my day doing that.
Well, Kathy, I just wanted to let you know, and actually you were the one that questioned me about
you said poster. I'm thinking we just hired the company again to do the posters for the advertising. I'm thinking it's life size.
Oh, well, I got
11 doesn't require town board approval.
I got back to you on
that. Poster, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a flyer.
8 by 11, it wouldn't be a poster, that'd be a flyer.
Okay, well, I got back to you.
No pun intended.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I got back to you. I got back to you promptly, and I'm sure Kent will be glad to hear it because when I contacted him, he's like,
clear with Jim. Clear with Jim.
This is not a big deal.
Yeah, clear with Jim. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm glad we have a consensus on that. And basically, the focus of the board is primarily on. The noise issue seems to be paramount, but among the folks who are more opposed to the airport, they repeatedly are emphasizing not only noise but safety and the environmental impacts, and they're very curious and eager to participate in a discussion of those impacts as soon as we get a process together. We're all eager to hear the analysis of the 2020 season, as to which I've passed a proposal around to the town from HMMH. I think they're underway on it, but I think we need to get that moving as well. And that is about what I have from the airport.
Thank you, Jeff. So I want to bring the board up to date and the public as to developments with regard to COVID infection. The numbers within Suffolk County are continuing to climb. And while we enjoyed infection rates of below 1% on average for better part of the summer, there started to be an uptick as schools went back into session and cooler weather arrived. That percentage rate is now for the 14th was 2.9%, and the 15th 3.7%. This is an alarming trend, and if we have a 10-day rolling average of over 3%, that will push us back into further restrictions, which I don't think any of us want to see. The total number of cases reported within the town of East Hampton since the outbreak of the pandemic is now 381 confirmed cases as of yesterday. Late last week on Thursday and Friday, I had calls with both the governor's office and the county exec discussing the concerns over the rising numbers and the further restrictions that were recently put into place regarding the 10 p.m. closure of all restaurants, bars, taverns, and gyms that began last Friday at 10 p.m. Those businesses will not be able to operate past 10 p.m. and anyone who is dining will have to finish their dining by 10 p.m. They will be closed at that point, and the public will have to leave those establishments by 10 p.m. In addition, there's been a restriction of gatherings within households of no more than 10 people. Both these actions were in response to contact tracing, which has shown that both of these two areas, indoor dining and gyms and gatherings in private homes, are contributing to this spike in cases. And so the governor's office has decided to try and address it directly by putting these further strict restrictions in place. Again, we're definitely not out of the woods. In fact, the entire country is blowing up with coronavirus right now. And right ahead of Thanksgiving and the Christmas and Hanukkah holidays, we have a situation where there are returning college students. We implore everybody to please take all necessary precautions to prevent the spread here within your own households and within our community for the health of our community. Please consider not having those Thanksgiving gatherings. I know that that's something many of us, including myself, look forward to every year. We gather with family and extended family and have 25 or more people gathering for the Thanksgiving meal. It's always something that we celebrate, look forward to every year, and really enjoy. But we're not doing any of that this year. It's probably just going to be myself and Marilyn at home for Thanksgiving dinner. The two of us will do Zoom call with family who are scattered about and bring them and celebrate the holiday that way. Again, please avoid gatherings of any kind. Don't go out even if it's not necessary. Limit your exposure in your shopping for groceries or any other kind of activities. Stay vigilant about making sure that you're washing your hands regularly, that you're disinfecting commonly used surfaces, and that above all, you're wearing a mask and trying to stay more than 6 feet away from others. This will all contribute to a much less painful future for us, and we move into the dark days of winter. We really need to protect our first responders. We need to protect our healthcare system. You see the heartbreaking stories of other parts of the country where the disease is blown up again, reminiscent of what it was like here in the spring. Healthcare workers really pushed to the edge and having to make terrible decisions about, who might live and who might not. Let's not let that happen here. We've been fortunate to date. Our community's really responded well. and followed the guidance, and that's really led to what is a very low infection rate for us here, but it's ticking up, and I'm concerned, and everybody should be concerned. Don't let your guard down. Remain vigilant. It's so important. We'll get through this much better if we all just follow the simple rules and guidelines. Had a meeting with the Natural Resource Department to talk about a program of New York Energy Management. I think I've mentioned it once before at work session. This is a service that would help the town track utility costs and usage at various town buildings. We can have, I think we've identified about 35 different buildings and accounts that we might track. It's a nominal cost. It's a little bit more expensive the first year due to setting up the systems for tracking and loading all the accounts. But it would give us real hard data on what buildings are using how much energy, at what time of day, how much energy we're using, what those costs are. We recently have been working on bringing the CDCH building back up to a point where it can be used. As the board's well aware, we had a mold remediation effort in the building, and the assessment of what needs to be done to open that building back up are ongoing, but we have many of those issues addressed, and we'll be presenting those costs to the town board and the necessary work shortly. In my discussion with Natural Resources, we talked about increasing the reducing the carbon footprint, increasing renewable energy at CDCH. That is a potential site. That roof is capable of holding solar arrays. It could generate up to 150 kilowatts of solar. But we also talked about looking at that in conjunction with the future development of the ball fields, and to incorporate in any design planning the possibility of having additional solar, whether it be solar carports for the parking, solar on the dugout roofs, and other potential means of producing energy offsetting or carbon footprint, and where possible. We are finalizing the Police Reform Committee roster. I've reached out. We've had positive responses for those on the list. I'll go over that with the board in the near future. And we hope to have that potentially adopted Thursday night. And we do at this point have a few resolutions. I think, David, you have the first one.
I do have one. I would like to put out a potential amendment to this. This is Resolution 2020-1071, Suffolk County Real Property Acquisition. This is whereas for a 0.71 acre vacant parcel of land located at 192 Cedar Street, tax map 300-159-0202, owned by Suffolk County. We're looking to acquire the property from the county for open space purposes. I'd like to see if the board would like to amend it to put open space and agricultural purposes for the county. Total investment was $7,464.25.
I would personally support that. I think, in fact, even potentially broaden the possible scope even further and include recreation. Obviously, you know, that leaves the board and the community of future possibilities that could be discussed and vetted, but certainly at a minimum, the agricultural, I think is good to add there. And I thank Zach for pointing that out.
Yeah, I would support recreation. So amendment for open space, agricultural and recreational purposes.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. Jeff, you're muted, just so you know.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Aye.
Okay, 2020-1072 is to increase the cap for Sokolov Stern. And that is to add an additional $30,000 to the total not to exceed $130,000 for the calendar year of 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passed and carried. I'll entertain a motion to go to executive session.
Can I just ask a quick question?
You know, go ahead.
What time is Thursday's meeting? Because you referred to during the meeting, you called it an evening meeting, and originally we were scheduled for 11 a.m. So
yeah.
No, I looked at the calendar. It's listed as 11 a.m. So I wouldn't change.
Okay, so it's 11 a.m. Okay.
Yeah, I said evening. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm reverting to the old days, the before time.
Which, yeah.
It's almost right now.
Well, with it getting dark at 4:30 now. Yeah, so that'd be 11. You know, we haven't agreed. I don't think you have to change to any other time schedule than we've been running. So before we go into exec, I just want to acknowledge, sadly, the passing of Robert Schaefer. Bob Schaefer served on the planning board. He was involved with the town over many years, took a keen interest in the goings on of the town. He was appointed to the planning board in 2006. At the same time, I was appointed to the board. I'd known Bob before that, but I got to know him much better serving with him over those subsequent years. And you know, Bob was a guy who had great sense of humor. He had what is unquestionably a radio voice. When he spoke, he could have been he's a great MC. Anytime he was doing that, had a voice that was just, it was actually really soothing to hear. And he was somebody who encouraged me to actually run for public office, to run for town board back in 2011. And I took him up on his urgings, and it's really made quite a difference for me. But I also want to say that he was somebody who was incredibly knowledgeable about English history, particularly the royals. He could name who reigned when, and who was related to who, and it was really remarkable. He also enjoyed the show Jeopardy, and every evening would be rushing to get to a TV screen, no matter where he was, to ensure that he could watch Jeopardy. And that was, I guess, in a way, with Alex Trebek now leaving us, that the two of them are having Jeopardy questions and answers in the beyond. So I just wanted to make acknowledgement of Bob's passing. He was a friend, a confidant, and somebody who cared about East Hampton.
Great.
Thank you.
Cheers to Bob.
Yeah, he's a faithful member of the Lions Club also.
Yeah.
He was a good friend to me, I have to say, as well. So, and always a fun guy to encounter and have. The discussion was always lively with Bob Schaefer, and he didn't pull any punches.
So at this point, I'll take a motion to go into executive session to discuss CPF contracts and personnel. Are there any other matters we need to discuss in exec?
I'll make that motion. What time would you like to go into exec? It's 2:48.
Given that none of us have had lunch, perhaps
3:30?
3:30, 3:45.
3:45, what it's,
3:45.
I make a motion that we go into exec.
For the extra 15 minutes.
All right. I'll go into exec for CPF personnel and contracts at 3:45.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, passed and carried. Thank you, everyone. Everyone at home, stay safe and be well. And have